Well, hello, 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 men in the chat, waiting impatiently for Carol to come out of the bathtub.
Okay, that's okay.
You've got a towel round you now, I trust.
Oh, yes, I'm presentable, sort of. Yes, I am.
And yes, I thought I've just time-stamped our discussion yesterday, and I thought it went quite well. Even the mean things said about us, I thought pointed in a hopeful direction because we have clearly discombobulated them, and they will be coming back to hear more pointers about how to be men, I
Oh,
think.
that's interesting. I couldn't see most of the comments, so I don't know. Maybe I've been blocked by all these people. I have no idea.
You couldn't see any comments in
Hardly
the
any.
chat?
No,
What, none at all?
no. Well, no, hardly. I've like maybe two, three.
Well, I guess at the beginning there won't be many, and then as the stream progresses, you'll get more comments.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all there now, as far as I can see.
Oh, so you have to go kind of to the end of the stream to see them all.
Yes,
Oh, I didn't understand that. I kept clicking on the beginning when I was
yes,
trying to
and that
see.
was before anybody had arrived, and so there
Mm-hmm.
would be no comments at the beginning.
I got it. Okay. I'm new at this, playing with this video stuff here.
Yes, it's part of the their collective experience. They come and post abuse and insults at us, but it's part of the fun and games of streaming, I suppose.
All right. So, what shall we talk about today, Claire?
Well, you have a few ideas about what could impel people to think more deeply about the lack of a moral system that white people can use to keep themselves in existence for one thing, and also about rules about how to behave towards each other.
Well, if you look at older behaviors of white people, it's very similar to what Islam tells people to behave like. So, if they can't remember how they used to behave, why not look at the rules of Islam so they can kind of recreate it? That would be a good idea. I mean, I'm open to that idea. How about people look at some of these nice things? Something like somebody cut somebody's hand off, or these people won't talk to women at all, and they're seeing really obnoxious behavior from immigrant Muslims.
Yeah.
Really obnoxious. There was a time that, I mean, obviously not everybody was so polite, but when I first became Muslim, you have no idea how polite the men were.
Mm-hmm.
They were so incredibly polite.
Mm-hmm.
So kind. Some lady couldn't get a baby stroller up some stairs. They would just come over and take it up for them. Somebody had a flat tire somewhere, they would stop their cars and help people. They were very kind, nice. I'm talking about in the United States. Now,
I think the
overseas,
class of Muslim is also a determining factor, because I mean the British were complaining about Muslims of the past used to be much nicer and all that kind of thing, and then somebody said, well, they were middle class, and the Muslims you're complaining about came from a particular part of the Indian subcontinent, and they're known not to be the most educated, highest class brown people around. And that sort of thing, and also I think being put in a post-industrial city in the north of England probably wouldn't help them behave better, because white the former working classes of these white industrial cities are not the best behaved either, and you can hear British non-Muslim Britons say, "Ooh, your Muslims are much worse than our Muslims," and list all kind of objectionable behaviour that Muslims in the South do not behave at all. I think probably because they are they're mostly middle class and professional, while the ones up north are, a different kettle of fish.
Well, I don't know. It seems to me England's a little bit more of a more obvious classist society than the United States. We used to have such a huge middle class here that no one really cared what the really rich people thought about anything. And it was pretty much if you could make enough money, you could get out of a neighborhood.
Yeah,
And it
but I
wasn't
think,
part of our identity. It was not part of our identity in the same way that I see in England. It's like you can be British in England, but you can't be English unless you're English DNA. And the United States didn't promote that idea because if they promoted the DNA thing, I mean, obviously they would have to say that they weren't American because we took it from the American Indians. That was what was going on. That's what we did. So, of course, I don't think anyone thought it that way. But they just tooted the tune Manifest Destiny and took over. Right?
yeah, I mean, but for Britons, it used to be the case that only white people can be English, but obviously if you're not white and you hold a British passport, then you're British,
Right.
and the white people kind of wanted to reserve the idea of Englishness to being white, and then of course after several generations of non-white immigrants, living and being born in the UK, you can't really or people are confused. So some British people might accept non-white people, brown people in England as English because they were born and have British citizenship, and others do not. But I mean, a simple way of resolving it would be to use the police race codes. I don't know if you've heard of them, but it's a way for the police to say, there's a white person coming your way in one, police car to another police car. So they would say, I see one, male wearing a red cap, something like that, coming your way to the second cop car. And IC1 would be white, IC2 would be Mediterranean, IC3 would be black, IC4 would be brown, IC5 would be Oriental. Or, and even this is controversial because because Americans call Oriental people Asians. So but in Britain people will think of a brown person rather than a Oriental, well, Chinese East Asian person. So even these terms can be confusing to people who are really trying to get straight answers. But the whole point of the IC code is to they're not bothered about whether this person is feeling white or brown or whatever, or where they think they come from and what values they hold. It's like it's your appearance to any objective bystander about what you look like. But it can be confused because there was this poor South American guy who got shot because somebody thought he was, a brown Muslim terrorist, but he was a South American electrician.
Well, we
The one
have
who was
some
shot
South.
in the head, on the London Underground some years ago, Charles Menezes.
Yeah, they killed somebody killed some South Americans up in Fresno because they thought they were Arabs. Back I don't know how many years ago that was. Oh gosh, that might have been the late 70s. They just they just didn't know, I guess. Wrong people. I guess they didn't have anything against South Americans, but they didn't like Arabs.
No.
So,
but the appearance is not very easy to distinguish visually, because Persians are quite white people who could pass for Italian or Mediterranean, so I guess, because they do look a bit, some of them can look a bit Latin or, whatever. So, but anyway, the idea of race is kind of, color based and therefore objective.
Well, I see it really as a, well, I mean, it's a preserving DNA, I guess, and it's also a culture. So you have the thing now, let's all hate white people, so we can't adopt any of the thinking from white culture anymore.
But that's silly.
So,
I think to use, to accept this sort of anti-whiteness idea is like, well, what do you mean? Do you mean, because white culture used to be considered superior and to be aspired to, and something went wrong. And I think the difference would be, 50 years of feminism. That would be what really destroyed white culture. It would beginning with 1964, which is when the swinging 60s began, feminist revolution, the pill, and what they say about first, second, third wave, fourth wave feminism, and all
mm-hmm,
that. And
mm-hmm.
if people don't really analyze it properly, you will think it's a kind of racial thing, but I don't think it is. I mean, people use it as a shorthand, but sometimes I think it's a trap because if white people say, oh, we're being attacked, then non-white people who might support the values that we're talking about, which is marriage and family values, would be kind of standing by and saying, well, it's not a problem because we ain't white, without realizing that if you come to a country and the dominant race is not in a good situation, then it will also affect them because they're not running their country properly, and things are going from bad to worse. And well, I think they should support white people. If there's something they've got wrong, rather than racialize it, because I think okay, the liberal establishment do that in order to divide us. They want to divide families, so it could be old and young and male and female, and pro lockdown and anti lockdown, and
Well, the
Trump.
media is controlling the whole narrative. So
Yeah,
people have to
and we
ask
should.
themselves, why are they only talking about what the media is talking about? And why do they let the media define the boundaries of how to even look at the problem? Okay,
Well,
England,
because there are no thought leaders, because all these people who object to it, um, well, perhaps it's because they're not original thinkers. So if the political establishment control the the narrative, or even adopt ours, so white people would say ooh, people are being anti-white, and they might think, yeah, let them call it anti-white, and we'll get all the other non-whites to attack the whites, because of the way they've framed the debate. And I think it shouldn't be racialized. It should be, all the people who are legally in the West, who want to support marriage and family values, who don't agree with global homo and gay marriage and transgenderism, should support, whatever it is,
but
So,
nobody wants to admit they made a mistake. Nobody wants to admit they made a mistake. Look at, all right, I mean, with illegitimate birth rates this high, you're condemning half the population. I mean, half the children in school.
well,
So,
yes, and if you don't speak out against it ASAP, then it will get worse because they'll breed more, and then they will become the overwhelming majority, and then
well,
people will be too scared to. It's 86% in Jamaica. It's eighty six
oh
percent.
wow.
So there is a correlation, and um, and you look at the league, the education league tables, and you say, oh, I think Hong Kong, China, you know, places like that, they don't tolerate unmarried parents, and therefore their educational standards are higher because if the intake of schools come, if they come from fatherless homes, then they will have to, the standard of education will have to be lowered because otherwise they wouldn't be able to cope. They have behavioral problems, and the school spends time teaching them how to behave properly, and waste time. Well, in other countries they're really being taught the 3 R's, and whatever it is that they need to learn.
Well, the school system has got so bad in the United States now. When my children were young, I homeschooled part of the time. I mean, sometimes, some years. Some other years, I had them in a Catholic school. Another time in a Lutheran school.
Hmm.
What else did I do? Public school. Then, they went to public school some, I mixed it
Mhm.
up. If anybody can now, they need to take their children out of public school. The circus has gone beyond just people making little comments at your kids that they don't need to listen to their parents. It's gone way beyond that now. And a sane person needs to take their children out. Most people don't want to admit they really need to do this. Most people in my state, both parents have to work. And so,
Well,
the school is a babysitting service. They don't even want a shorter school day. The kids are institutionalized really bad now.
but one of the reasons why I support a one-party state is because the education system can't be improved and corrected within a term of office, and that is why successive governments never tackle it. That's why it keeps getting worse and worse, and and what the educational establishment just do is to hide their failure, and there will be grade inflation, and they keep changing the curriculum, and they change the way grades are given, and to deliberately confuse a parent so they don't know how badly the kid is doing, and they use all kinds of weird jargon that even educated people can't understand. So that's what the educational system has been doing, because they won't challenge the sacred cow of the
Well,
culture of casual sex.
they're trying to federalize all curriculum. Okay, it's a fight here between state rights and gosh, I can't. I'm having state rights and the central government and who
Hmm.
has authority, this kind of stuff. There's all this kind of fight going on here, and a lot of this stuff streams back to who has the real authority to say anything about anything. But apparently, it's not parents. Parents can't say anything about what they want for their children anymore because we are just providing what's necessary for these people to collect their paychecks. You know what I'm saying? They are the experts with input from us. This is how they say it to us. Who said that? They're supposed to be working for us.
Hmm.
Nobody's working for us. Nobody cares about us. If somebody cares about a kid, they tell them to stay away from some boy who's being sexually harassing. They don't tell them that in school. They're not telling them anything. It's
Yes,
not
and,
their
and, and
kid.
and I hear a lot about female teachers seducing their adolescent male pupils.
Well, there's some of that going on, but there's a lot of sexual harassment from other students towards the girls.
Mm, mm,
And there even was when I was in school, but it just progressively gets worse and worse. That when one of my kids was in school, there was a little boy that would drop condoms in front of him. This is in the
hmm.
elementary school.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they called him Condom Man, if you can believe this. So
Hmm.
I didn't know quite this was going on because children don't realize how much of this isn't supposed. They just don't get it.
No.
And even if you tell them, it doesn't make sense because they're in an atmosphere for so many hours during the day where this crazy stuff is going on.
Hmm.
And the video stuff and stuff. But if they want to clean up some of this problem, they do need to they need to have separate gender schools for a while.
Yeah,
Maybe
but
maybe the
this is
really
this
lower
other
grades.
thing about American culture. What we're going to have, single sex schools. It's unheard of, isn't it?
Well,
Really.
they have they have the idea of separate but equal doesn't exist, because of that was the idea behind integrating the schools racially. Down south, they're saying there's no such thing as separate but equal, and so then the women said, yeah, there's nothing separate but equal, and they ended up in schools where the teachers were paying more attention to the boy students instead of the girls. But I mean, there's all kinds of different things going on. But what do you want? Do you want a future where you have people that can bring up families and create a conservative enough atmosphere to make a country progress, or you just want it to all decay and go down the sewer? That's what's going on now. England made a mistake. Okay, for whatever reason, I mean, we can go into how they, dominated India, blah, 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 whatever the mistake they did in the past. They let way too many immigrants come into their country to the point it's affecting the wider culture. You can't let that many people in all at once who don't think the same way. So what used to be a place that an English woman could go down the street and not be bothered, she's got a bunch of these South Asians bothering her. And they have done nothing to clean this up. I was there in 1976 and they had these big race riots over there. Okay, I didn't actually see the riot. I guess I was on the other part of town. But that was in 1976, and this is still going on.
Where were you in the Notting Hill riot? Was it were you in London? Was it the Notting Hill riot?
I was in London, but I guess I was in another part of town. I was in another part of town. Am I yelling on the broadcast?
No,
I can't
well,
tell.
I think you're clear enough.
Oh. Yeah. So this hasn't changed, and
because they keep sweeping all these problems under the carpet. If there are any race riots, what they do is they get I guess a new sports center or something. So
I don't know, but what I'm saying is 1976 to now, that's a big length of time that this still hasn't been resolved. So you can't integrate. Okay, let's look at this as American history. Okay, yeah, Muslim American Indians living here, and some people want to make the argument they didn't have anything. Well, it was theirs, right? So all the white people came and took over the place. How'd they do it? They just overpopulated and just started coming in, right? You can't let this many Muslims into a European country all at once and think somehow they're going to pick up the stuff in our society that we want to keep. We want women being able to walk down the street without being harassed. We want that. But that's not what's going on anymore. Now you're getting used to being harassed even more. And young women are always been harassed by men to some degree. But this is not something you don't live next door to people behaving like this. They have a right to be upset and mad, and they have a right to be mad at their government. And the people coming in really are saying, well, it's your payback for England being in our countries. Well, so what? What is England's real reason for letting this go on? A government that doesn't care.
It's the political establishment who, I think that what it really is originates in the operation of democracy. So there's a labor shortage. The whites no longer work, or they think they can claim welfare. And, because the industrial base has been basically, exported to China or wherever. And the same thing has happened in America. Like, well, we can't be bothered to govern our working classes. We can't be bothered to make them work. So we'll just export, our factories to somewhere where it's cheaper. And therefore, the working classes disappeared, and then people realize that they don't care about the middle classes either.
But it's not
the government doesn't care about the middle classes, because if it did, it would try all the things that middle class people need to do to perpetuate themselves, which is to support marriage and family values.
Well, to support marriage and family values, and it's to not have the state take over every aspect of their lives, which is what this is turning into. This is going to turn into socialism over here. I don't want to live in a socialist state. I don't want to live on some idea of politically correct forced equity. Like is someone who works really hard and gets ahead supposed to be equal to me, a couch potato? Is that really fair? And it has to be fair and polite, and we're just going to lie about reality. Okay, strange men coming up on the street. Yes, women are supposed to say hi to them and just start talking to them. When I was a kid, if a guy came up and tried to talk to you on the street, I'm talking about, young woman, We
Mm-hmm.
walked in a huge circle to get away from them. We didn't even stop to hear what they were talking about. That was the normal behavior. So
Of strange men trying to talk to you,
yeah, it was
as a
really,
woman.
really bad behavior. Now the hippie
Mm-hmm.
stuff changed that a little bit, but no, it was before. Women, if you look at pictures of Jackie Kennedy and stuff, right, when she's outside, she has her coat on, which is
Mm-hmm.
similar to the hijab. You want to be honest? You
Oh
wore a
yes, they
coat
would wear a
outside.
scarf. Yeah.
You wore a coat. You
Mm-hmm.
wore a coat because you were hiding your body somewhat from men. That's what was going on. You put your coat on. And they used to wear hats as a carryover from, it was thought that women wore hats because they used to wear those prayer caps and stuff, and it evolved into hats.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so you wear your hat. That was a Finnish woman. She was dressed up. She didn't look like she was just hanging around the house.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the pictures, the women had gloves on.
Mm-hmm.
And if they were standing in a situation where they had men and women standing together, the woman would be holding her purse with both hands in front of
Hmm.
her. Because there was no man and woman handshaking. They didn't start that till I was in school. They came in and explained to everybody in class how men and women were supposed to shake hands with each other now.
Hmm.
You didn't touch people like that. You just didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very Islamic attitude, to be honest. That's an Islamic attitude. So now we got people shaking hands. We have all this other stuff going on, and I mean,
Yeah,
it just
the huggy
progressed
kissy stuff.
the
You
whole
know.
thing.
Yeah.
Well, Irish culture, men and women would hug each other and kiss. I mean, you can't look at everything as such a rigid, uh, so rigidly. But the way that immigrants are looking at this stuff is off the wall. It's
Mm-hmm.
totally off the wall. A woman who's wearing, a shorter dress and she's going down the neighborhood, that is not a horror. And that's how they're being characterized in these communities over and over again. Horror,
Mm-hmm.
horror, horror. This is how they're talking about us. And you can see it on the internet. You can see it when these Muslims supposedly dies are speaking. They're holding the white women as the big example of everything women shouldn't be, right? Well, they came into this culture. They volunteered. They wanted to come here, so they came. I mean, if the ones that are jumping off boats are coming on purpose, other ones that came in with visas came on purpose. You can't come into a country and decide you're going to think everybody is filth when you're not the majority. I mean, sure, when people become the majority, they do all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
But what they're doing is ruining English culture. That's not the England English people want to live in anymore. Where are they supposed to go? Okay.
Well,
Now,
they also acknowledge, well, whatever mistakes that they made. I mean, I often make the point that, you know, the importation of immigrant labour to the UK was caused by, two ruinous world wars where, the best of their men were killed in the war. But they could have quickly replenished their, racial stock if they were already Muslim and allowed to practice polygamy, because there were lots of women who wanted to become wives and mothers, but who couldn't find husbands, and they died spinsters. And
well,
that would.
not even. I mean, not even that. Just having some kids and justifications for this. But did white people care enough about their culture to not destroy it? Because they are ruining it. They're ruining it. I'm white. I'm a Muslim. I'm a Muslim, and I can see they've ruined their culture. You have different generations that keep coming up that have no memory of the previous times. And in the Muslim community, the white people are run off pretty much that the older white people aren't there. They maybe put up with it long enough to get their children out of high school or whatever, and then they pretty much flake out and quit coming, or they quit coming right away. Like they're smart enough to
Quit coming
realize,
where? Sorry.
hmm?
They quit. Who quits coming
To the
where? I didn't.
masjids, okay. All the
Right.
masjids are is a it's a the masjids are now basically a foreign import of culture that's incompatible with living in the West. You can't build a country hating it. You can't, it's incompatible to think like this. Now, back when Americans or Europeans flooded the United States with their manifest destiny and stuff, they had no intention of adopting American Indian culture, and they didn't. But we won, right? If you want to think of it that way, the European won. They colonized. I mean, they colonized the entire country.
Mm-hmm.
Why are white people in England throwing it away, and why are white people in the United States throwing it away, or in Canada, or any of these places? For however they got there, they won, and now they're just saying, "Oh, I don't care about it anymore."
Well, I think religion is really the thing that holds everything together. In fact, religion comes from the word, the Latin religare, which means to bind. I mean, it was the old-fashioned ancient word for social cohesion, and all religions have a belief, a narrative, and then it has all these rules that people like us always do this and never do that, and people
Us
survive through following these rules and these rules giving them a distinctive identity
and
that
social control, social
mm,
cohesion, and social control and social influence. Now you can have the state do it, or the people themselves can do it. I guess the United States, they decide we're going to let the people do it because we don't want to be controlled by England. We don't want to have this kind of dominance. We want to be free thinking.
yes, free
Supposedly
from being
in a society that was so uh, ingrained that when they spoke about religion, they were mostly speaking about Christianity for the most part. People, it didn't occur to them that you'd have massive peoples just quit believing in God altogether. And
Washington worried about it. Have you read his
well, they
farewell
worried
speech?
about it, but I don't think they envisioned. They did. There is something where they mentioned something about Muslims and something, and they did mention that a little bit, but I think it was used more as an example to be whatever you wanted to be about religion. But I don't think they imagined a white society that would go native on a whole bunch of things that had nothing that they didn't feel was part of their culture.
But yeah, going native is an interesting thing because I mean the reason why the Native American was so easily conquered was because there were matriarchal societies. They didn't really practice marriage in the way that the white man did. And, Europeans knew that they were forbidden fornication, adultery, sodomy, bestiality, incest. And I think, being aware of those rules, gave the European enormous organizational capacity. But then he was also being oppressed by his religion and compulsory church attendance and not being able to, deny the divinity of Jesus. And I suppose that caused the European, when he was in America, to, reject the idea of a king and having to follow the religion of his monarch.
And keeping the money for themselves. They wanted to keep their money.
Hmm.
Anyway, there's a lot of reasons for it, but if we're looking at it now, do white people want a culture anymore? Do
I
they
think
want
they do.
children?
They want a culture they can be proud of, but they don't know how to get it back again, or they don't like, what it would have to take to get it back again, which is boring marriage and family values, having to choose once their sex partner who must also be their spouse.
Well,
And that was what generations of Europeans never questioned. We can only choose once, and we have to stick with our choice.
and they didn't have this idea that they had to have fun all the time. This massive fun every moment, every single moment. If even nobody said, like, for example, okay, somebody told me this thing like, yeah, in England, or not England but Europe, yeah, you're going to go to church, but no one said you were going to enjoy it. That wasn't one of your rights, that you would enjoy and be entertained at it.
Yeah, but this thing, I was talking to this white nationalist, and I'd say, well, there is no choice but Islam. I mean, you're not going to be Buddhists, you're not going to be Hindus, you're not going to be Jews. Christianity has failed. I mean, what are you going to do? And it's all, oh, but I don't like it. And I just can't, feel it. And I thought, well, you don't have to like it. You're not
Well,
supposed to like it.
Islam can be used to rebuild the white man. It can. It can be used to rebuild white society. The values they had, it's the same values my father had, except he wasn't a Muslim. And if he said anything about it, he probably would have said, "That's poppycock." You know what I mean? But he wasn't a Muslim, but these values are the same. The real core values are the same. And that's what builds a strong culture and a strong nation. What does not build a strong nation is buying into this narrative of Islam, this massive horde of immigrants is bringing in. It's
Well, it can
lopsided.
easily be put to them. I mean, they've obviously rejected secular Koranism, saying, well, I'm not Muslim, I'm not even Muslim, how dare I? And my rejoinder is that, well, you haven't exactly covered yourselves in glory in the way you've interpreted your religion, and you clearly have, distorted it, or you wouldn't end up as, immigrants, hated and feared and, in somebody else's country. And they have no answer to that. They have distorted their own religion. They've just, they've cherry picked the whole thing. Obviously, they didn't do the things they didn't fancy doing. They
Well,
did the things they wanted to do.
religion always expresses itself. Okay, you have religion, which by itself is an idea or a theory or whatever. It manifests itself through people. And it manifests itself through the cultural lens of people. Islam has to be manifesting through the cultural lens of the white man to make Europe, the United States, Canada, really great nations. If they do that, they will surpass what they were in the past. Not adopting this cultural lens of Islam that is just not going to work here. Nobody wants to live where men are harassing women for going down the street. No, we don't want to live like that. We
Yeah,
don't
but
have.
there was nothing incompatible with the values of the men and women of the 50s, the women who wore scarves when they went out because, people
Well, you
regarded
forget the
not.
scarf. We even forget the scarf. I mean, my mom wore a scarf when she went out because she had her hair in curlers because they were going to look nice when the husband came home. But I mean, this isn't the scarf and stuff isn't the issue. What you want for your children. I don't know what white people want for their kids, but I can't believe they want what's going on now. It's just it's incomprehensible that they have become this stupid. Instead of apologizing for themselves all the
The
time, they just
IQ.
say, "So what? Yeah, we took over your country. So what? You're not going to take over ours." They should
Yes,
just fight for what they have. And they can do that without starting a race war. They don't have to let in hordes and hordes of people whose cultures are incompatible with what's now the host country. Why should we make the
but
same
they can't
mistake that
complain
they?
about immigration without being labeled racist.
Well, who
I,
cares? Being
but they
labeled
can't
a racist.
organize themselves.
Stand up. Stand up for themselves. Stand up for themselves. Look, our
But if they're
culture
not
means something.
supported by another, and but if they only hear stories about some white person stood up for himself and got cancelled or whatever, they're not going to do it because the narrative of standing up for yourself and winning isn't there because it's not being supported by the media because the media will be white guy evil racist and he got his come up and so when he tried to say something and you know and of course the problem is mainstream media because it controls our minds. It tells us who we are and what we're supposed to do.
Well,
And
it's certainly supporting instability in culture in general. It's supporting an unstable existence for
And
people, for regular people, unstable, and then they're breaking down every single piece of community they have. Now, you may not like Muslims, people may not like them. A lot of people don't want to be around these people, but it is still an intact faith community. It's still intact to the point that most of them are abhorred at the idea of someone having a kid out of wedlock. Most of them do get married who have children. Still, it's ending. It's going to end the thinking. The younger people are starting to not think that way, but it's still intact. And it actually has rules kind of written down. I mean, Sermon on the Mount is very inspiring, but it's not exactly the rules for it. It's a good rule if everyone in the country actually thought that way, but that's not how it is. You have bad people, good people, all these things. You need a state. Christianity is almost to me as a way of it's a way for a government to create some type of cohesion that agrees you aren't supposed to go against the state. It's what
yes,
it looks
because
like to me.
it was only ever used to support the divine right of kings. I mean, from the beginning, when Rome adopted it,
Mm-hmm.
it was to support the divine right of I forget which king it was, emperor it was, and
Mm-hmm.
therefore, it meant that all other kinds of Christianity were outlawed
Constantine,
in
yeah.
the Edict of Thessalonica, and that was why heretics had to be burned at the stake for questioning the divinity of Jesus,
Well, I
to
mean,
make sure that they were all Christian.
you could
Which is
look at
why
it also as,
when they could react against it, they rejected it.
but you also could look at it as a system for how can somebody believe in one God when they're under another dominance? Like, how can they do that? They're not going to set up a state. Islam set up a state itself. In that, I mean, it's different things of thinking. I don't think most Western people want to live the way that we're seeing the immigrant Muslims
Oh, but
archetype.
you
They
don't
don't want to
have
live like that.
to.
No,
But you
you
don't.
don't have to. You don't have to. But right now, everyone is letting immigrant Muslims run the narrative. White Muslims need to run their own narrative, and
But
they
they don't
need
say
to
that the scholars. I mean, what's his name? Hamza Yusuf, the
Yusuf
California.
Hamza. Yeah, uh-huh.
Yes. Well, he doesn't say anything. He's such a coward.
He's not a coward. He's promoting the Maliki school. He just promotes the Maliki school, and he's uh, actually, Muslims have this. um uh, People kind of see Muslims as being real aggressive and stuff, but there's the other side of him. He actually exhibits Islamic adab, to be honest. Hamza Yusuf. They don't argue with people about what they believe. They don't do that. That wasn't the Muslim waves to
Is he a
argue with
Sufi?
people. Hmm?
Is he a
No, he
is
says he's not. He says he is not a Sufi. I don't think he has a Sufi sheikh he's under. He says he's not.
because when a Muslim says he's Sufi, it's like, oh, I'm not an extremist. I'm not a terrorist. I wouldn't even argue with you. I spend all my, daylight hours chanting, so I wouldn't have time to argue or plot terrorism. So leave me alone. I mean, that's what I hear when somebody says I'm a Sufi.
Well, no,
Um,
Sufis. There has a structure to Sufism. You have a sheikh who's teaching. It's a different structure for learning Islam if you look at it organizationally. Like there's a sheikh, people are learning from this particular sheikh. Some of them give bayat or they give hand to the sheikh and will do only what he tells them to do. Then they have like rules like don't talk about our secrets outside the community, which basically means don't start talking about Islam because you don't know what you're talking about yet. They have their own kind of things. It's an organizational way of teaching Islam. Right now, what we have is the masjid set up and in the United States, and it's not working. It's not working for white people. It's not working for white Muslims.
because it's the lack of clarity. I mean, Jonathan Brown. Well, he's basically saying, you can be Muslim and you can be gay. You can be Muslim and do what everybody is doing now.
He's trying to wrestle with, okay, you can be gay and be a Muslim. Okay? You can be. You can be a sinner and be a Muslim. You better be in the closet. with your sins. Islam doesn't just say that gay people need to be in the closet. They're saying everybody needs to be in the closet sexually, and you need to hide your sins from public view and not infect society. So if you're gay and you're not making a spectacle out of it, and you're keeping it to yourself, they're not going to do anything to you as long as it's not turning into, Fast Freddy down at the river or something weird. You see what I'm saying? Because Islam also has an idea in it of not poking your nose too much into somebody else's business.
Mhm.
So you can be overseas and see gay people. I mean, one of my kids saw two men making out in an alley.
Oh dear.
You understand? Because it was
Mhm.
around the siesta time. They take a siesta there, and they were a little bit late getting home.
Mhm.
So they saw that. I mean, okay, now these guys aren't broadcasting it around. They're not playing, Skippy Doodah in public. And okay, you're not gonna. Muslims aren't supposed to sniff around and find the sinner to this extent. But over here, for some reason, they're starting to act like that. Do you understand?
What do you mean? They're trying to discover sins
Yeah,
in
I
people.
mean, what's wrong? Yeah, what's wrong with that? I mean, it's just kind of they're destroying themselves with this stuff, and then you want to play social justice warrior and go run down, and I'm going to be in this gay pride parade or like Ilhan Omar dancing around with transsexuals. How does that help in the country? I mean, aside from Islam, how does it even help the country? Is that what people want? Is that what's going to build a country? That you got a bunch of men dressed up in drag and they're going to. I mean, this isn't shouldn't be encouraged. Islam is about encouraging a certain lifestyle. It's not about seeking out people to find out if they're doing something else. It's encouraging a certain type of society that makes it easier for married people to have children and have a family
Hmm.
and to conduct themselves without a lot of distractions about harassment and this kind of thing. But it's not this warring kind of, we're going to speculate on what's really going on. Like, oh, I have those two guys living in that house for 20 years. I don't know. It's a little odd they're not married living in that house. I mean, Muslims actually can ignore that stuff because we also have the idea of not poking our nose into people's business so much. But that does not seem to be emphasized anymore. So do we turn our head because the society is going wacko and we're gonna support all these stuff in some misguided notion that means the country's going to accept us? No. You
Hmm.
stand for your values. You don't promote values that are not your own. And those are not white values, what you're seeing being promoted. Okay, now white nationals, they need to think about Islam from this idea, not from, oh, I'm going to learn how to say Assalamu alaikum and I'm going to be really, really harsh to my wife now. Islam doesn't promote that. But you're seeing a
Mhm.
lot of these converts and stuff speaking about Islam as if that's the norm. Muslim
But
men.
well, it's up to women really to say, we this is a kind of Islam that is civilized. So, there has to be a discussion about
Well, there has to be a discussion, and
the
they're not in the
American
discussion.
interpretation
Nobody,
of.
we're not in the discussion. White Muslims are not in the discussion. We're not consulted. We're not asked. Most white Muslims, they become Muslim, they go to a mosque, they acclimate themselves to the masjid, and then they just either shut up or ship out. I mean, that's it. That's your two choices. Either leave it or stay. And if you stay, you're doing a disservice to your families because if you're white, they don't like you. They're perpetuating this hating white culture, and your children are either white or half white, depending on who you got
Mhm.
married to. So,
Mhm.
this is psychologically damaging. Even Black people in the United States did not do this. They had their own communities, like their own let me try to think. Like Jack and Jill, they had Jack and Jill. If you were a little bit more upper class blacks, or they had their churches, which were all black because white people didn't want to sit in the same churches with them. And so they were able to, have Christianity in their own cultural context. Muslims have to do the same thing here, and it needs to be done by white people. White people
Yes,
have to
yes.
show the European way to be Muslim, not a bunch of immigrants coming in who hate the structures and the culture of the countries they're in. Now, I
Yes,
think
and
France goes too much. France goes too much with their stuff, but why do they keep letting them in? Why just they have no reason to be there, send them home. This is insane. White people don't have to justify every action they make. They don't have to be, mini Hitlers or anything, but they don't have to keep apologizing for what happened in the past. Everybody's just going to sit around and apologizing all the time. Apologize, apologize, apologize. All the black people I know, almost none of them are moving to Africa. They don't want to go live there. I mean, a lot of them some like to go on those trips, kind of like my heritage trip, or they want to go for a while, but most of them are choosing to live here. Why is that? It's a better deal. Well, it's not going to be a better deal if they destroy everything about this culture. And white nationals need to change their thinking from this, I hate the brown man, to I'm going to build a better white man. And it's very easy if they just look at some of these rules in Islam to do that, because they don't remember their own rules anymore. They don't remember the types of chivalry they used to have in their behavior. If you can't remember these things as a white person, you're not going to regain your culture. Now, maybe the brown people are going to say, well, they were so mean to us and blah, blah, blah. Well, that's their lens. We have to look at our culture through our lens and make it something great again. It's a big problem.
There needs to be leadership for these things.
We need white nationals to shape up their narrative. Okay, Islam does not believe in running around killing people over race and stuff. We don't want a race war. We don't want a race war. But white Muslims, they shouldn't want to live like how these immigrants are, because it's not a productive way to live here. Now, you have individuals that did pretty good over here. They got jobs and stuff. Sure, they're all promoting open borders. What's that? Why are we going to have an open border where people just keep running across the border, come in? Why? American Indians made that mistake. They just kept letting all these white people come in, but they probably should have massacred them all when they first got off that first little ship, but they didn't know what they were looking at. When they first asked some of the American Indians, what did you think when you saw those ships? They said, we didn't see them. They didn't know what they were looking at. They had no concept that their idea was more tribal. The Indians lost because they had no cohesive.
They didn't have a religion that was capable of protecting them.
They weren't cohesive as a community, as they were different little tribes. It's the same problem that went on in Ireland. Irish could have fought off the English if they hadn't been so disunited. But yeah, if they had their religion wasn't made with the idea that we're gonna fight off some strange cultural invasion like that. You know what I'm saying? This is really a war of cultures going on.
Yeah, and it's all about, making the rules clear, because if you want the rules to be obeyed, they have to be stated clearly and written down, and so that everybody knows what it is, and then they're more likely to obey it. But for Christianity, well, what does the Sermon on the Mount actually mean? No, I think very few people can agree on what it actually means. So it can mean anything to anybody if they want to offer their own interpretation, and I think therein lies a problem. But I think as long as the white man practiced marriage, and they were okay, but they haven't for the last 50 years, and that is a problem. And I don't think they can even think of themselves doing that again. I think that is a problem. It's like, oh, you think we can just go back to what grandma and grandpa did? They can't imagine it.
They can't imagine it because they don't remember it. You're having generations die off. It's like the people who remember World War II are pretty much almost died off. They can't remember. They can't remember
Old
this.
movie.
Yeah, it's like watching a John Wayne movie or something. You don't know what the culture was like. You don't. People don't. White people don't even realize how tough these white people were that came to this country. They were really tough people. They gave up everything, got on a boat, went across the ocean, got off the boat, tried to sign some piece of paper, and then walked out into the streets with nothing.
Mm.
I mean, these were incredible people, and they were all leaving oppression. A lot of them were leaving very oppressive lives. My heritage, going back on my father's side of the family, were Mennonite farmers that had left Germany because they were being massacred for their religion.
Who
Because
by? Oh, so you are of German extraction? I thought you were of Irish extraction.
both. I'm an American. We mix it up here. But they were Germans. They came over because they were being massacred for their religion. Because Mennonites were pacifists, and the Germans thus thought they needed to go in the military. Okay, which is kind of funny because my dad ended up being a big military man. He wasn't brought up Mennonite, but that's actually why they came to this country. They came here for an idea, and they were the type of people that said, "Okay, I'm not going to give up on my idea just to live here." They're going to leave somewhere that was oppressive and come here. Now, these immigrants coming here, what are they offering? A mindset of, give me a handout. We hate everybody that lives here. They're not building their future. They're selling out, running down to the border, singing Kumbaya with a bunch of people in drag. This is what they're doing.
Yeah.
There's no point to this. Nobody
Could you tell me
in the
what a
United
Mennonite
States.
is? Can you tell me what a Mennonite is? I should know, but I've forgotten.
Oh, Mennonites are a type of Christians that it's very community. It's sort of similar to Amish people.
Yes,
Mennonites
that's
and
what I
Amish
thought.
They split up. Amish have way more rules and stuff. Mennonites didn't have these rules, like you couldn't go to college, you couldn't do that, any of these things, and they're basically farmers. They were a bunch of farmers.
Right,
So,
and the the Germans didn't like you?
oh, the Germans clamped down on Mennonites because they were pacifists and refusing to go in the military. Tolstoy wrote a book about this stuff. There was a strain of Christians that were saying we shouldn't fight in these wars. We shouldn't fight in wars.
Oh, yes, we don't want to die in the imperial wars of Germany.
Germany, no, anywhere, even in Russia, they were talking like this. People were talking like this.
Right.
Tolstoy wrote a whole book on it, or I think he wrote 2 books on it. And he thought that was the best explanation of Christianity. He believed that we were supposed to be pacifist. Okay. So anyway, the point is,
Was it War and Peace? No, it wasn't War and Peace, was it?
no, it's oh shoot, I forgot the name of it. Let me see. Let me look on my phone. Maybe I have it.
Yes, I have.
Anyway, his book is just about why Christians should be pacifists. He was fascinated by the Anabaptist movement. So they're Anabaptists. They're Anabaptists. They believe in becoming. You become baptized as an adult.
Well, it's like a confirmation ceremony, so you know what you're, buying into, I guess. Isn't that the whole purpose
okay.
of
It's the book.
adult baptism?
The book is The Kingdom of God is Within You.
Okay.
And see, I'm American and stuff, and my background was Catholic, but my father's side of the family, they were a bunch of Protestants. But I am somewhat inspired by what happened with the Protestant protest, Protestant movement with Martin Luther and King, although it was such a horrible, ugly, bloody war, and they were pretty gross, and then they became impressive in their own way.
Well, through the Protestant work ethic, that kind of thing.
No, they became oppressive with Protestantism in their own way. They went to Germany. Germans in their old culture of when they were, mostly farmers is what Europe was. So they used to have these uh, uh, sort of like a democratic collective of farmers that would get together and decide issues themselves without someone up over them. So they kind of had this idea, and then they became Christian. You had the church on top of them, and then they just had to rebel. Then finally it got to where, they wanted to rebel against the aristocrats and the church itself. It was keeping them down. It was keeping them from having anything. And Martin Luther went to Germany because he left. He went to Germany because that was the best place to hide out, because these people were starting to buy into it. So he went there to hide out and do his first translation of the Bible into German. He was one of the first. I think he was the first person who translated the Bible out of Latin, because the Western Empire, the Romans, they used the Latin Vulgate, whatever. So they used that. So he was quite innovative in that, and I like that. And that's the problem I have with the idea of a single party state. I like to see innovation not be squashed in any way. But morally,
it doesn't mean that you don't innovate just because you have a one-party state. I mean, if you read the Constitution of the Chinese Communist Party, it's only 28 pages long, but if you read between the lines, you can tell, what problem, what they did to plug the loopholes that people were using, corrupt officials, and, the problems that they had. And, they do reform it, every now and then. They do reform their constitution. They put it in a different way. But I think that there's a sort of, they do tidy up the constitution, is what I'm trying to say. But I don't think it will work, because I can see that, they've done, terrible things to their birth rate. They have a demographic time bomb. The Chinese parents don't want to have more than one kid now, because they think, oh, it's, more than we can afford, just the one that we have. And so even with the lifting of the one-child policy, most Chinese parents don't want to do that. And there are millions more men than there are women. So they had to give, LGBT people their rights. And once you kind of give them rights, they will be encouraged. And, I think that there's a certain attraction to, having recreational sex.
Look, who somebody wants to have sex with isn't an identity to begin with. I mean,
because it's fluid. It's like, if you want to have children, maybe you have to give up being gay. It depends on how much you want to have children.
Well,
and people do give it up.
Public sex shouldn't be going on. Now you have all these pseudo public sex things going on. And everybody wants to have it equal, and so they all want to do it outside. Okay, Muslim says, go back to your house. Go do it in your bedroom. Leave everybody else out of your bedroom.
Yeah, there used to be public decency laws in the West too.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's not just public decency, it's what's being encouraged. You're going to tell a 14-year-old boy who's having trouble relating to girls, he's having trouble, he's growing up too, and telling him, hey, let's go to this gay party. We don't want that going on. The idea that that children, just because they're thinking the other gender, isn't true. It's a developmental stage people go through. Nobody even seems to know child development anymore.
Well, the thing is, what they seem to be doing is that, they started, sex education in secondary schools, and now they're telling, children that they have the option of changing their sex from the age of 5 or something crazy like that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Get them hooked on recreational sex, or the idea of their right to enjoy recreational sex.
This is all child abuse. This is all child abuse. Yes. And I'm not talking about according just to Islam. This is child abuse. If you read child development books, children should not be thinking about sex and half the stuff they're being forced to think of, because everything is so much in the wider society. right?
Yeah, because it does psychological damage. Because I mean, I think most people know now that the more promiscuous you are, the harder you will find to settle down with one person.
Well,
You have ruined their marriages.
they're trying to develop their own gender within themselves. So they need to have a model that they can understand that's not changing in front of them. I mean, it's just really stupidity. No one is thinking about that children are not just small adults. You want to do
Yes,
this stuff around some adults? Okay. You doing this stuff around children, they are horribly confused. And it's not
you
true
are
just because
destroying
they
their
pick up the,
future, and
huh?
therefore your own future. You're destroying the future of these people who will
You
be
have to
psychologically
have
damaged, and you're destroying your future as a nation
you
to have the
have to
psychologically damaged next generation.
you have to have as stable of a childhood you can have. And there's so many things against that even happening. This idea that some woman is going to be able to take care of this kid on her own without a man in the house. Yeah, sure, she might do okay with it, but wouldn't it be better if the man was there? Wouldn't it be better if a boy sees a man who's in the house, who cares about him, who goes to work, who comes home as a model for his identity, instead of looking at some stupid TV show that's got a couple of gay guys on there? Which one is better for the future of the country? But no, we're all so worried about everybody being so nice to each other and politically correct. We can't say anything wrong. I mean, I don't want to listen to a paragraph before someone decides what pronoun to call somebody and all about how they're trying to not offend you. I was in a yogurt shop recently, and this white lady in there started talking to me. She starts apologizing for being white. Why is she apologizing for being white to me? I'm just like, what is
What, she
wrong
didn't know
with
you
you?
were white? She didn't
No,
know
she
you were
knew I
white?
was white. She was trying to justify what she was saying to make sure I understood she wasn't being mean about whatever the heck it was she was talking about. I'm like, you got to be kidding. You have got to be kidding. If white people don't want all these immigrants swarming across the border because it's ruining their culture, they don't like the behaviors of these people, that's enough reason to take a stand against it.
Mm,
It's enough reason.
mm.
Now, if you let in a smaller amount of people, okay, you want to work up, you want to let in a smaller amount of people, they can diffuse and get out into the culture and learn things. Back when my mom was in school, she went to she went to Catholic school when she was growing up in the elementary schools, and I think she actually graduated from a Catholic high school. But like when Mexicans are also Catholic, so every once in a while, a new Mexican kid would show up at school. And they had a rule at the school that the boys couldn't wear jeans, right? But the Mexican kids were allowed to, just the Mexican kids, because the reality was our parents worked in these agriculture and stuff a lot. So it's okay, the Mexican kids can wear jeans. And the first day they would come, and the first thing they would do is they'd take the Mexican kid and take him over, set him down next to some kid and say, look, you're in charge of this kid. You help him. Right? Mm-hmm. And so my mom said, actually, the first day they came, they looked really Mexican in the old serapes and stuff. The second day they'd come without the serape. And then after
The what? The what? Sorry.
the Mexican, it's a, when you see the
Sombrero?
picture, you see it's something. It's kind of like a poncho they wear. Yeah, the sombrero. Right. Yeah, not the sombrero, but they have those on. And so then they wouldn't have them the next day. And then slowly they kind of get their clothes like everybody else as much as they could with them. Be allowed the jeans. And then and then it was like, hi Margie, hi. They would start to say hi. On the playground was divided genders. Kids on one, the girls on one side, boys on the other. They had bathroom attendants. Nobody was having sex with anybody in the bathrooms. Nope, none of this stuff was going on.
Yeah.
So what was wrong? That wasn't such a bad thing. The kid learned how to speak English. They were pretty good in English after a couple of years because they did it like this. You're letting in hordes of immigrants now. I went on Hajj, and there was a huge Lebanese community in the United States, in Detroit, around there. They came in the, I don't know, 50s or 40s or 50s to work in the automobile industry. They mostly got, jobs in Detroit with the cars. And so I was there on Hajj, and I'm just talking to people. I'm kind of casual when I talk. And they kept asking, some of them spoke Arabic and some did not. And because they've been here for 4, 5, 6 generations, maybe their great grandfather was in the military. I mean, all this kind of stuff. I'd be talking and they say, what do you mean? What's that mean? They didn't know some of the regular American idioms because they had all been all together in this place for several generations. They spoke English perfect, but they didn't know some of the idioms we use, like water under the bridge. What do you mean water under the bridge? They didn't understand some of this stuff. So if you're going to let in a huge bunch of people all at once, now this community grew over the years, you're going to let in a whole bunch of people all at once, shove them all in a certain area, and then they're supposed to, understand this culture in even 3 generations or 4? Like what's going on now? They're not going to. They're becoming they have too much animosity towards it now. The Lebanese over there didn't, but what's going on now does. And they hate white people. They hate them. Okay, why let in people who are going to hate a huge percentage of your population?
Well, it's because your ruling classes don't care about you, and of course, I guess
the ruling classes don't have. It's not just they don't care about us; they don't care about anyone except themselves. Instability is helping them stay in power. That's what happens. All this instability is helping them stay in power. It's not true that the United States is run anymore by the vote of the people, for the people. That's not true.
How does the instability help them in the long run? Or I guess they're not thinking in the long run.
It takes away every single stable community people have. If you had a church community, you were able to stand up against government. Look at what the civil rights did. The civil rights used their churches. The Black people used their churches. They had communication through churches. They had they promoted their own idea. They got together and said, "Look, we need more of a voice here in America," and they tried. They tried to help themselves. Okay, they weren't running around in the beginning trying to tear up white people. Now, Black Lives Matter was trying to tear up the country. Okay, it was promoting a narrative like that, but Black people weren't promoting a narrative like that when they were when the civil rights movement came. I mean, it appeared that way to white people, but they weren't promoting a super duper hatred towards white people. But that way, they were just saying, we want our piece of a pie now, and we want it now. We've waited long enough. You understand? It's still a difference in focus.
I think, a lot of, I know, a few Black people who say, we don't want to be associated with that. It's not us. We're not, we don't hate white people. We don't, and we think it's dangerous for us, to be seen as
a lot of Black people don't like white people. It's absolutely true. A lot of them don't. But so what? They don't like them. A lot of white people don't like Black people. They don't want to be around them. They don't like the way the stereotype behaviors are. Maybe they don't like the loudness. Okay, so what?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of white people don't like other white people, and a lot of Black people don't like other Black people. I mean, it's not a big deal. I mean, if there is a problem, it's because these people don't know how to behave, and that's why they make themselves unbearable to the other groups. So I think it's just a law and order problem. That there will be criminal classes, and if you let them get away with too much, then their behavior will become insufferable.
You have an argument in Islam that supports your idea, and that is, in the beginning, when Islam started, and with under Prophet Muhammad, put it that way. So it's under Prophet Muhammad. They started this, and they started instituting all these laws, right? okay, in the beginning, it was people who were voluntarily becoming Muslims, so they're an isolated community over here, and they all agreed on it. Much like the church, you agreed with the church if you showed up in church, right? So
Mhm.
they were all together like this, and then they finally ended up, finally Mecca surrendered, right? So they came in
The
as
Islamic Revolution, the Meccan Revolution. Is that what you're talking about?
no, I'm
When
talking about
Muhammad returned to Mecca?
when he returned, and they all gave up, and he told Abu Sufyan, "Yeah, we're going to forgive everybody, and let's just start anew," right?
Mhm.
So uh, those people were big wife swappers, drunks. I mean, they were all kinds. They were the lowest of the low. Islam doesn't believe prophets were sent to the best people. We believe they were sent to the worst people. Okay, they were like
Yeah.
the most disgusting society. It was classist. It was sexually promiscuous out the wazoo. I mean, there were all kinds of people saying, "Will he recognize me as his son? Please recognize me as your son." I mean, there's a lot of this stuff going on.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, they instituted those laws and cleaned it up,
Mhm.
right? And so now you have a situation where you have Muslims who've been living under these laws, and now they don't want to live under these laws anymore because they're thinking, okay, I want all the free thinking and the fun now, right?
Mhm.
So they actually don't want to have those laws anymore either.
Mhm.
But it sure did shape up Mecca for many years. When I was let's see when I was younger, I don't know what exactly goes on now, but when I was younger in Saudi, you know how they moved bank money between banks. You know how here we get the armored car and all that. Do you know how they moved it?
On camel, on camel.
No, they just stuck it in a box and walked across town. A
Right.
cardboard box. Can you imagine carrying cash like that across town? They used to not steal anything. They were like,
Yeah.
if of all the Muslims, you knew that Saudis weren't going to,
They will literally chop your
they
hand off.
would not the ones my age and older, they would not take your stuff. It was like going to a Jehovah Witness church and leaving your purse there. Nobody's going to take your purse in a Jehovah Witness church. You don't have a
Yeah.
problem. That's not going on there. They didn't steal your stuff. They didn't do any of that stuff.
Mm.
So
Now,
law
now,
can be used to turn society around too. Why not? Why not have law to turn a society around? Why don't white men and women look at these laws in their cultural context of maybe what this type of behavior would look like
mm.
within their culture and start doing it? It's only going to improve their life.
We're talking about men. There is somebody who wants to talk to you. I don't know how prepared you are to
Okay.
engage. I'm afraid you will find him annoying. He is this Jesus person.
Well, he can
That
talk, but if he starts talking about sex stuff, I'm out of here. I'm not listening to men do that. Okay, I don't want to
well,
listen.
that's not his style, but he will be
Okay, I'll talk to
annoying
him.
in
Sure,
a different way,
sure.
probably because he's not that fond of Muslims, and he will um, um, well he
Well,
well,
I've lived 40
but
years of people not being fond of Muslims, so it's not a problem
okay,
with that for me.
I think you can deal with him,
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
that's why I
Okay.
okay. And yeah, somebody else has said, well, he hasn't been around for a long time, so.
Mhm.
Um, and I think what we said yesterday triggered a lot of men. It's sort of, oh, how dare these two women tell us how we should behave, don't they?
It's what their
And
fathers. It's what my
women
father
have
would have
no
told them.
idea.
It was what my father would have
Yeah.
told them. Okay,
Uh-huh.
you want to talk about white culture? That was my dad. Okay,
Mhm.
and he wasn't any kind of a race hater or anything either, but he certainly believed in preserving his culture. You understand?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I suppose once these values, these sort of mindsets go, it's really quite hard to instill it, to people who never heard of such a thing.
well,
You know,
how do you turn around people who think they're supposed to have fun every moment? I mean, a reaction. You had something that was a reaction against something that came too oppressive, and it went too far.
Mhm.
free thinking and stuff, that's kind of a good thing to have. That lets people think out of the box. But getting to the point where it's fun, for example, when the hippie movement started, okay, you were talking when they went to the colleges and stuff, these were educated people.
Mhm.
And then it turned into what it ended up in the 70s, just a bunch of potheads who weren't educated at all. It disappeared. The free thinking part of it turned into drugs. And,
Mm.
I make a joke to people that, Rumi is the most famous poet sold in the United States. Rumi.
Mhm. Mhm.
I tell people, yeah, because back in the 60s, all these hippies would recite Rumi while smoking pot and dropping acid.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's a misuse of Rumi, and it was not. They had quit doing anything. The free thinking had gone from analyzing and discussing and thinking about what are we really doing to doing nothing at all except getting high. That's what happened.
Can you
That
remember
deteriorated.
anything by Rumi that might interest?
Well, I wasn't smoking pot and dropping acid, reciting Rumi. So, but uh, let me
I'm
think.
a bit vague about Rumi. That's why.
Oh well, he has a lot of these. He has a lot of these. Actually, one book is sort of a tafsir of the Quran in a way, and then his poems are mostly about uh, your relationship with God and stuff. And so they make fun of masjids,
Mhm.
right? It does make fun of the masjid and stuff, but what it's talking about is making an institution your God instead of God itself. Like a masjid is an Islamic institution, right? It's an Islamic
It's a
symbol.
mosque. It's another word for mosque, isn't it?
But yeah, it's another word for a mosque, but a mosque itself is Islamic institution in that most people, when they think of Islam, they say, "Oh yeah, mosques, mosques," and then people go in there and give a little lecture. They do their praise together. That's our center of community. And so he was making the point that that's not what we're worshiping, but that's how people are behaving. Like they'll be like maybe masjid or something like this. It's talking about your intellectual ideas about it, because Rumi had an experience. He had a spiritual experience with Shams, and he realized that it wasn't all the law. He was actually a fiqh scholar before he became a big Sufi. I mean, before he had this other approach.
Mhm.
So anyway, why
Right.
are we talking about that? I don't know.
Well, because you mentioned Rumi and those hippies smoking pot and dropping
Oh, all
acid,
I'm saying is you get
quoting.
a good idea. You get a good idea to push against something, and then that deteriorates into a big mess, right? But if you have,
Mhm.
for me, if you have a single party system, I can see it becoming a press. People have to have some hope that there's a way to go against the system, even if it's a good
Oh yeah, yeah, they
system.
do. I mean, there
Mm.
is the Islamic principle of shura, consultation. How's my agricultural policy? How's my, transport policy? I mean, actually, China do that. They do consult the people, about all kinds of things because they do have innovations. They have to try it out, and I think they genuinely want to be, to do the right thing.
Well, if they want that, if they're going to put that in the United States, the people would have to want it. And I don't know what they're going to do to fix what's turning into a huge mess here. It seems like every generation talks about the big mess, but this has gotten to the point like you feel like you're in the twilight zone. Some of my age, now the younger people, maybe they're so used to it. Oh, it's okay, but what are they getting out of it? Nothing. If they don't have families in general, I mean, I'm not saying every single person has to have a child or a family or someone can. If they don't even believe in the family,
They won't have grandma and grandpa telling them of a different world where different kinds of thinking and
they
stuff
won't
will
have
be
that
done.
same stability. They just won't have the same stability. And it makes them more vulnerable to
Well, crazy
Not knowing
ideas.
what to do, not having an example of what actually worked, or seeing something that was stable enough to even decide, oh, that didn't work. No, I didn't like that about my family life. That didn't work for me, right? But they can't even make a decision about that because they don't even know what a family life is. They can't even make agreements with people because they don't live in families. When I was young, you had to make an agreement, everybody, what to watch on TV, right? And then
Negotiation.
when dad came home, he was in control of that TV. And I had to be the channel changer. He'd make me stand there. There was no black and white TV, and I'd have to turn the channels until he found a channel he watched. And there wasn't that many channels there, so it wasn't like I had to be there a half hour like you would be now. Go back, forward, back, back, back. Oh, okay, there, right there, right there. That's the one, Carol. Okay, go on now. He just took over when he came home. It was him. It was his shows, his whatever.
Yeah.
So,
But that is the thing. The whole thing about the family is that there is a head of the family, and you had to listen to him. And maybe you can kind of play one parent off against the other, but nominally there is somebody in charge. Well, if you grew up with your unmarried mother, well, the moment you're as tall as her, you can defy her, and then she'll get you kicked out, and you'll be on your own and suffering from, all kinds of, sexual exploitation, I guess.
mm-hmm.
Because that's how it works. Because maybe mom wants you out of her home now because you'll be, her latest boyfriend is taking too much of an interest in you because I mean, this
It's
is
not a
what
good
the
picture. It's
usual
not a
kind
good
of
picture.
no. And also, victims of child sexual abuse become promiscuous. I don't know if you heard of Milo Yiannopoulos, and he was doing his thing in America and talking about well, I mean, we know he was pro-Trump and the rest of it, but he was saying, well, I had sex when I was 14 and it was fine. I was grateful to the guy that I had sex with, and everybody went ape, and in the end, he had to apologize.
With the guy, right? An older man.
Yeah.
I remember somebody talking about this. I remember something about this. Okay.
And there are people who have been abused who don't know they've been abused. I mean, that is the thing. It's like, well, at the time I enjoyed it, having sex with this older woman, or, having sex with this older man when you're just a boy. But really, the psychological damage is, well, um, it's not obvious because, the person seems sort of normal and whatever, but it means that they just can't stay in a relationship. They will always want to, have sex
Well,
with something around the corner that appears to be more interesting than his current relationship.
most it is easier to get into a home that doesn't have a father in it. It's
Hmm.
way easier, and um, yeah, it's way easier to get into a house that's
Yeah, yeah,
father's not
because
there.
women in the UK, I mean, the welfare mums,
Mm-hmm.
they have to, they have this home, and they are the ones who have control of the home, and they will have a series of unsuitable boyfriends who will sexually abuse their children one by one. And then they, but because they're so dumb, all these laws have to be introduced to protect them when they get into trouble, and whatever. And that is how you get increasingly more totalitarian and oppressive laws to protect these women from their own stupidity.
To protect their kids from their mother's
Mm.
stupidity. Yeah, I don't know. I was I was brought up Catholic. I told you I was brought up Catholic. One of the most amazing things that I learned from being around the Catholic Church
Hmm.
was that life just was not fair. It never promoted this idea that life was going to be fair or should be fair, ever. So we understood that the kids whose parents donated the most money, they got the best perks.
Hmm.
We understood that at a very young age.
Hmm.
And a lot of Catholics back then when they went into the working world, they didn't complain about things being fair or not. But
Mhm.
some of the Protestants will want to express themselves and discuss this. It's like, okay, just get your paycheck, move on, figure out what to do. We're going to do something else. So there's different mindsets. And Muslims, a lot of Muslims coming here think the government is supposed to give them a lot of stuff. Like that's their mindset when they come. I've seen people who have got into low income housing. They own homes in other countries, some of them. And then people are supposed to pay for my taxes are supposed to pay for this person who's come to this country and won't even make enough commitment to get rid of that house back home. And they're going to take my tax money.
Well, the welfare state is another sacred cow. I mean, I was talking to you earlier about this 20% flat rate income tax that the Quran arguably supports. And if that were the rule, then it, people would just have to make do with that level of government services that is free, and no more, and to buy votes or whatever it is that they do.
Low income housing is welfare for the rich. They would have to lower those rents, or the workers wouldn't be able to live here, and then they'd have to figure out how to get them back in here to work. You know what I'm saying? Like if you don't have enough money to live in a neighborhood or something, and you're working there, you have to drive. If they're going to make it so there isn't housing people can buy, and the government's interfering. Where I live is turning into this massive, huge. People are trying to recall the mayor over it. It's turning into a huge bunch of giant apartment buildings going down, and a bunch of them are state subsidized things.
How is it welfare for the rich?
Because what they get is, okay, when they put the building up, they get an extremely low interest mortgage loan to put the building up. So they run a bunch of these, sometimes it's the entire building, sometimes it's a big percentage of it or half or whatever. They have a percentage that has to be low income housing that they have to rent out to this. And this is sort of, supervised by the state in some way. So they're actually able to become extremely rich off of this because they couldn't have gotten that loan to put up that structure. So maybe they're not going to get the benefit of it, but their kids sure are, because their families are intact. Rich people's families are intact. Rich people put their kids in a private school that is not teaching them to, if they have money, they're not sending them to the public school. If you have a lot of money, you don't send them there. Why would you? Why would you send them to some school that is so out of it that, like I told you the other day, where those two students had sex on the ground in the middle of a dance? That's a true story. I knew somebody who worked at the school.
Wow.
So these things are, you're going to have your kids around that if you have money. That would be a really uncreative mind, wouldn't it? I'm going to put them in this cesspool. No, they're not going to do that. They want to go have a gated community somewhere or something like this.
Good evening, girls.
Who's that?
He's
Jay.
Oh, it was another little picture. I see. Hi, Jay.
Yeah, how are you?
All right.
Good. And how are you, Claire?
I have to mute myself and go. I'll because I have to deal with something actually.
No, Claire. You're not telling the truth, are you? Come on.
I am. So I'll be back in a minute. I'll be back in a minute.
No.
So you two can talk to each other.
A minute, or a long time?
No, literally a minute.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay. She's going to have a drink of whiskey or something too.
Are you in Australia?
No. I'm in England.
Oh.
North England. So, but it's been interesting listening to you the past, I think 2 or 3 days or something since you've been chatting with Claire. how did you actually meet up? How did you get to know Claire?
I forgot. I think I said something on a thread on Twitter.
Yeah.
Something. I really don't remember. I think it was somebody else. Somebody else's. You know how you have the people following and you follow. I think she came up on somebody else's thing, and I answered something on it a couple times or something like that. I really can't tell you how I know her.
No,
I don't actually know her. We never met, but you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I've met her. The 20% income tax rate, that seems like a really good thing, but that's in the Quran, isn't it?
Well, it's
Yes.
in Islam. I'm not sure where that is.
I can find it. I can find the verse for you.
Yeah,
But
it's homes, but a lot of Sunnis and stuff don't believe in it.
Well, yeah, I mean
Mhm.
that's. But I think if everybody, including businesses, had to pay 20%, there's no reason why a rich person has to pay, a higher percentage of tax than a poor person. But also as well, another good thing in the Quran is about usury, is about loaning money.
Mhm.
If in the world, if we didn't have to borrow money, then we wouldn't be in the problems we've got, especially going on in the world at the minute with the massive increase in inflation, obviously, which is prices going up, and diesel and fuel, electricity, the whole thing.
They have an odd way of dealing with usury in the Muslim world. It's almost like you know how you have a rent to own house. I don't know if you have that over there in England. Rent to own. Do you have that?
Yeah. The
Okay.
last sort of 20-30 years, I think it's half ownership, half rent, and
Yeah, it's something. So they're kind of trying to get around the usury so Muslims can buy homes. Like some places might, like some credit unions or something might offer something like that.
yeah. What we've got here,
Mhm.
you've got a building company wanting to put up, say a large block of flats, but they have to, the management, the owners have to make sure that, I don't know, 40% of the rooms are for the unemployed or those on social housing.
Rent.
So
That's like a rent control thing. Yeah.
yeah, so
Uh-huh.
so I mean, I'm not in London, but I was for a long time. So my friend, he actually bought a 2-bedroom flat in a big complex, but over the corridor from him, there'd be families on what you call welfare,
Mm-hmm.
and that it just seems strange that sort of thing does go on. You mentioned about life not being fair.
Life's not fair.
Well, it's if you know that life isn't fair, if you think that life is easy and you should feel good all the time, you're going to get disappointed. And I think that's one of the problems with that's going on today, especially with the younger people, where they think that they should feel good all the time, or they think that life is
Well,
and it's not. Life is not. It is a
young,
very
younger people have been brainwashed and they have not been shown a vision. Okay, like it used to be when kids were little, they actually, girls used to play with their dolls, like, okay, this is me when I get married, and they go get the boy Barbie, this kind of stuff. They're not even showing a vision of marriage. So they're not even they don't even have a good idea. Like some of them will say they don't like this guy because he's not sensitive enough. Well, the truth is most women don't want a guy who's super sensitive because he's not being manly. If he's that sensitive, nobody wants to sit there and pet some man who's bawling his eyes out all the time because somebody hurt his feelings.
Yeah, no, I've got I've got a friend up here, and her husband, he works in a school, and he broke down in front of the whole class, crying in tears because they got him a present, and she said that's why I love him, because
Mhm.
he does that sort of thing. And there are men who don't do that sort.
That's a different kind of. I mean, that's a different
Yeah.
kind of sensitivity. But I mean, I'm talking about. Is a man really going to waste time because somebody didn't like him for more than 2 minutes?
Yeah,
I mean,
but
they're like whiny women. Nobody wants to be around a whiny woman, and I mean, most men don't want to be around a whiny woman. So why would women want to be around a whiny man?
no, I mean, whining women. It's Claire still there? Oh,
I don't know.
the thing is, though, you two were talking yesterday, and I did, I think, put it in the chat, and I think Claire did see it, where you both were saying what men should be, but as soon as I hear what women saying men should be, I put my finger in my ears. I genuinely don't believe that women know. I believe that you think you know. I believe you're being sincere, but from my experience with women, of which I've had quite a lot, I genuinely believe you don't know what you want.
I know what I wanted. Now the younger ones don't have a good vision. Okay, I knew exactly what I wanted.
And
And
I
I
mean,
got
without
it.
going, I don't mean to be rude or go into personal details or anything. So, but did that not come along?
What do you
Or
mean
has it not come along? Has that not come along in your life, or did it not come along?
What do you mean by come along?
Well, what men should be. So you've got women, or a woman in your case, or Claire, saying what men should be, and this is what I want. It's almost like you're making a cake, and this is the sort of cake that has to suit me.
I'm saying if a straight woman wants a man, they don't want to marry a wimpy man that is basically a replacement for a bestie, a best friend they had somewhere. You understand? In the end, they're not even going to relate like husband and wife. They're not going to. And they don't want to take care of a man like he's their son. This is not appealing in the long run. Maybe it sounds interesting, or they're being sold a bill of goods that that's what they should want. That's a weak man. Okay,
okay, but maybe I'm not explaining my point. In a lot of areas, and I think this is the same as what Claire talked about in the patriarchy, restore the patriarchy. You know, like if a man was to listen, say for example, we were married, okay. Don't get your hopes up. I'm in a different country, but say we were married, and you started telling me what you wanted, and I began to go along with what you wanted, irrespective of what it was, you would lose respect for me by
no, I'm not
actually.
saying that. I'm not saying that.
Mm-hmm.
A man has to be able to just refuse when it's at that point. He needs to be able to just refuse. He can't be so wimpy that he's going to get mowed down by a woman. Now you can sit there and argue, maybe a negotiation through arguing, and a man can decide to go along with it because he thinks it's worth it to him, just to have peace in the house, or maybe it would make her happy, and I can do that. I mean, he could do that. That's not the same as a wimpy man. People don't understand. People are so out of touch with this, they don't even know what anyone means anymore. When they say someone acts like a man, and what are they looking at? They're looking at someone talking about their idea of what a man should be based on some idea of reconstructing it from some sort of cartoon character, right?
Yeah, I hear you.
Right?
I agree.
I
agree with you. I'm on the same page with a lot of.
So how do you get a bunch of people who are now so involved in cartoon characters and stuff that's too far from reality, because they had not seen white men who took care of their families, suffered every day coming home, did not sit around getting drunk or inebriated, even if they even if they wanted, even if they didn't want to come home, they came home. They used to suffer. They didn't have an idea that this was going to happen without suffering in some way. So, and periods of boredom and this kind of stuff. This is how people used to be. Now you got a bunch of people want to have fun so bad. It's just not the substance of what you can build a family with.
Okay, I hear you, and I do agree. I do agree. And as a man living, I've lived a very full life, and I guess I still do. So it's getting more and more difficult for guys like myself to actually be honest and be real in the world today, and constantly watching what I say, how I am, and so I don't think you can press a magic button and suddenly implement a rule, or in Claire's case, a religion, or bring in a law that's going to change the social dynamics of what you're describing.
But it did change the social dynamics of Mecca. Okay, because when Mecca fell, when it fell, the people that lived in there didn't really want to go for it. Okay, but they accepted the law. At least they surfacely accepted the law, even if they didn't. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but don't you think it's at a stage where I mean, do you believe in oppression? Do you think oppression's a good thing?
No, I don't think oppression's a good thing.
Would you agree with me that there were some elements of the male-female dynamics that really needed to change going back to the 1920s or 30s?
No, that's what I was talking about. I was talking about that with Claire a little bit earlier here today. I have a little bit of a problem with the one-party system because of where's the pushback going to be, especially when we're in a society that has ruined almost every type of community people have.
Yeah.
It's like you can't fight against anything as an individual. You have to have community. So you have your family, and in the United States has had a history of nuclear families. It doesn't have extended family. Even among the white people, we have less family ties than, say, in Europe. People in Europe have because they lost the ties.
Yeah,
you understand. So,
but surely, I mean, surely that's because of one of the main factors of that is I think the further the man, when I say man, I mean humanity, people. Even there, you check yourself. It's ridiculous. The further the man walks away from God, the bigger the distance is, then the more problems he's going to face, and the more society is going to be, basically what it is.
well, society, government, way people live today, you have to have laws. So we can all have this idea that if everybody psychologically just changed their thinking, we wouldn't even need laws. But we need laws. We need
but if you look at, I mean, I completely agree. You need laws, and you've got obviously local laws about driving cars at certain speeds and speeding and things like that, and then I think in America, like federal laws about murder and stealing and stuff like that. But I think that one of the good things with Christianity, and I don't think Claire, I mean, I've been trying for years and I've given up trying to get Claire to understand. One of the good things with Christianity is that if followed properly and correctly, it does actually change you internally.
Well, I can say that about many religions.
Yeah,
many
no,
religions,
and that's what where I probably differ with Claire. It's not about being Islamophobic or anything like that.
But the Christian church, if you want to look at the Christian church and Christianity, okay, they in the early days of Islam was considered a Christian heresy by the church, right? Like Arianism or something. They actually considered it a Christian heresy. They have some books written on it. That's what they're calling it, a Christian heresy. So that's a Christian heresy. In Islam, it's right there on paper in front of your face that you have to accept Muslims and Jews, and you have to be nice to them and not hinder their free exercise of religion, and even support it in some way by the church. And the other religions, like, you know, the pagan stuff and everything, they're just on their own with their stuff, right? It's asking for an alliance between these three.
But doesn't
So that is enough reason for me to think that a Muslim, a Christian, should rather live under a Muslim government than, say, under a Jewish government. Or
but when you say under a Muslim government, I mean, as I said, the usury and the 20% tax rule, I think the sexual degeneracy punishments, I think, is definitely in the right direction. I'm not convinced that it's the right answer. But doesn't it say in the Quran that if you do not befriend a Christian or a Jew, in case people would think you are one of them?
No,
I think it does.
That. No, it doesn't say that. It says don't take them as your mala. That's a little bit more than a friend. That's like your protector. Like that would be like saying we're going to let Christians define how we take care of ourselves. That's what that is talking about. It's not. We're already intermarrying. Muslims were already marrying Christians and stuff. By the end of the revelation itself as being revealed, they were already marrying. The prophet had someone. They had a group of Muslims that went to Abyssinia under a Christian king. It doesn't mean that you can't be friends in the sense of how an American thinks of a friend. In the Middle East, a friend was much more than just being a friend. A friend was someone that really had your back, really had your back. Yeah, because that was interesting relationship that they had outside of the family structure, because their families were so large and tribal and intact that if you had someone who was a friend to you, wow.
Yeah, but I think else. I mean, I've got probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 strong friends, but what I do know is that not many people today have got strong friends the same way that that I have. But I think that is one of the fallouts of society.
Well, what it's saying is for the Muslim to not be subservient to another idea or another ideology or another person, which isn't that what white men should do? Not be subservient.
Well, I don't think in terms of white men or black men or brown men, to be honest, but it's like
but it's a white culture.
No, but to be subservient anyway. I mean, I believe in being subservient to God, and for me, it's about the words of Jesus, and you know, my life, and I've seen other people's lives improve from being subservient to God.
Well, sure. So you're suggesting there needs to be what, a Christian revival, and this is going to change all this?
I mean, I don't know, and no doubt Claire's going to jump in and call me a Neanderthal.
No, let's not start the name calling. Okay, I'm not calling anybody names here.
No, she won't hold back.
But don't you start up either, please. No. Okay, I don't want to sit here and have you making cracks at Claire or listen to this going back.
No, it's what she'll call me.
I don't want to hear about what you think she might call you. We're talking right now.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. I'll be subservient to you. I don't mind. To be subservient to God, it requires a lot of strength, because it requires the deflation of the ego, the deflation of the human condition, and the world today, especially the younger world, are encouraged by education, by therapists, by schools, that they have a right to.
So how you want to solve it? You have a better idea than Claire's? You have a better idea?
No,
than
no,
like
I don't.
Yeah, that's the issue here. Okay, if people don't like Claire's idea, I'm more than open to hear somebody else's idea.
So
you know what I mean? I'm interested in hearing what you have to say too. But
okay, well, if you try, try
it.
listening. If you try listening for a moment, so just because I do not have I mean, I know personally what I need to do, which I do, but just because a person does not have, say for example, if you're watching the TV and a rocket goes up in the sky and it burns up halfway and crashes, and I was to say that rocket's not very good, then unless I've got a better idea how to build a rocket, does that mean that my opinion is worthless?
No, I didn't say it was worthless. I'm saying is offer something else then. Let's hear some other idea. I mean, I could. What if I don't agree with Claire? Do I have a better idea? I actually don't have a better idea than hers.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean to say that your opinion's not valid. We don't have to have an idea in order to validate our own thoughts and opinions.
Well, I'm not really sure where you're going with all this.
Well, I think
we're talking about
I
cleaning up society. How are you going to clean it up when you have a bunch of people who have not seen role models of men behaving like men, and they want to recreate it, and they have no idea what it even looks like, because they have a cartoon view of the world, and they just haven't seen it. I mean, how do you describe a family to someone who never had one? Right.
Well, in the Sermon on the Mount, it talks about knowing by the fruits. You have to demonstrate it. So, I mean, you have to have your own family. So, for example, the one thing I do know about projecting political ideas is, like you need to have what you're preaching.
Who said?
Well, look at our current guy, Boris Johnson, he's Prime Minister of the Conservative Party, which supposedly represents family values. He's got 7 children by 4 different women. So can that man be taken at his word?
I don't know. Can he? You evaluate that. Can you take him at his word?
No,
Okay.
because he demonstrates one thing. So, say for example, I was really fat, like 300 pounds, and I started telling people the correct way to eat. Would you listen to me?
I don't know. Would I?
Well, you take a look at me.
Claire has an idea here. Not one person has presented an alternative. Not one.
Well, why?
Except, so we don't have one, so we're just going to let it stay the same.
No. I've always, and Claire backed me up in this. I've always supported Claire and give credit to her for her determination, the consistency, and the amount of abuse that she receives. I think some of it she brings it on herself, but I've always, in a way, been a supporter of her, and to be honest, not recently, but helped her quite a lot. I think she has some very, very good points, and I think her direction towards a solution, there's something there. However, but I do think a lot of it is just bonkers, but I credit her for actually having an idea, and I think I've been fair with that, and I think Claire will agree.
Well, I don't think she's looking for a pat on the back here. Okay, so I'm really not sure where this is all going.
Well, it doesn't need to go anywhere.
What you're trying to say here.
I'm saying something. I'm not trying to say something.
Mm-hmm.
I've just said it. I mean,
yeah, I do, but I don't see how that enters into the thing of how we're going to change. How's this going to change? How is white culture going to be rebuilt? How are white men going to start? As we say down in
like with anything, where do you think the problem is? Where do you think the problem lies? Where do you think is there one thing that has happened? Is there one thing that you could say that's what's gone wrong, and this is where we need to change? What
Yeah,
would
they're
you?
not taking care of their kids. No one's taking care of their kids.
Why would they
That's
not take care of the kids?
They're just not. They're not living together and making a commitment to those kids.
Right, but no. I'm trying to get to the root of the problem. You're just giving me the symptoms.
I'm not giving
You're,
you the symptoms. That's
you are.
the root of the problem. That
No,
is
no,
the
no, no.
root.
You don't understand. You need to go deeper than that with the human condition. Why would a person not take care of the children? What is the reward for that?
Because they split up, because they're having kids when there was no commitment to begin with, or they made a commitment and didn't stick to it, or
Why would
a
why
lot of people who get divorced, it's not because
right?
I mean there are people who are really are abusing each other stuff, but a lot of people who get divorced are getting divorced because of boredom. They just don't think it's fun anymore because they're weak. So how do you teach men to be strong when they've been institutionalized in a school system for them to be passive to this degree?
Well, there has to be a reward. There has to be a reason to do it. There has. I mean, as
To be
humans,
a man. To be a man. If men started feeling, if they started turning themselves into men, they would understand exactly what I'm talking about.
right. So, if a man was to turn himself into a man,
A man can, I believe it's at the point right now that the white man can build themselves back. I don't think it's hopeless.
why do you say white? Why don't you say man? Why does it have to be white? Why not brown man or black man?
What about them? Well, okay, I'm talking about white men because I'm white. I'm talking about
Right.
the United States. I'm talking about Europe.
So does the condition that you're on about with men, being weak, does that only exist with white men?
No, it doesn't only exist with white men. But and I was saying this the other day. If white men, like white nationalists and stuff, don't want white women marrying brown men, they need to, because some of these men that are coming, not all of them, but some of them that come from these other countries, man, they really stand up to the test. They're not going anywhere. They don't think anyone's going to give them a handout. They're working their rear ends off, and no matter how miserable it gets at home, they stay. They still come home every night.
Yeah,
Now,
I
not
think.
all of them are doing that,
Yeah,
but
I think
some are,
mention.
and that culture is also decaying
Yeah,
over
I think
here. After they
Ghana.
come here, it's decaying here. Now, I don't like a lot of things about some of these cultures. I mean, everybody can find things they don't like in a culture. I don't want to, I certainly don't want to be a caricature of some other culture, right? But as a straight woman, I mean, straight women would be happy as hell to be married to someone like my dad was. Okay.
I agree. I agree with you.
Okay. So why don't they try to make themselves into these men instead of these wimpy guys that are just pathetic imitations of a strong woman, if you want. I mean, they're not even that. This is extremely wimpified, what I'm seeing.
No, yeah, what you're seeing is the symptoms.
I'm seeing a product. I'm talking about a product.
Well, that's the same
I
thing.
go to Walmart. I don't want to buy a cheaper version. I don't want to spend $5 on a really junky version of a man. I'm not going to commit to that.
Okay, can I ask you a question?
Mhm.
What do you think the root of the problem is? You're telling me that this is what's
It's no
happening.
moral code in a breakdown of the family unit.
Right.
That's
So
what's
where
wrong.
okay, so that now you may be getting somewhere. So with
Mhm.
no moral code, I agree with you completely.
Mhm.
Where does the moral code come from? What is a moral code?
It can come from anywhere, really. But the thing is there a community of people that still buy into it? And is it a simple enough code that white men can look at it and see a list of what they need to become, and women can look at it and see a list of what they can become? They don't even know where to find a list now, in today's world. They don't even know where to look. They just have no idea. They're watching
But don't you
they're
think
watching some movie like what's that movie with that actor in it, Tom Cruise?
I don't watch films, I don't know.
Yeah.
But don't you think there's a promotion of the there is virtue in not following a moral code. There
I'm not
is
saying there wouldn't be virtuous people. I don't say that. I have a relative.
no. We you're not answering what I'm saying. The teenagers, I would think today, and I see this all the time. You don't need, they're encouraged. You don't need to be married to have children. You don't need to be in a relationship.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And also as well, men as well can be whoever, be whatever. So when you're possibly in the minority from you're wanting to move the clock back to maybe 40, 50 years ago, which I agree, I don't disagree with. But I do think you need to get, Claire's got a good grip on it. You need to get a handle on what actually is the problem and deal with that. You know, if you were to walk into a university or a school or a college and say men need to turn themselves into men, you know, they wouldn't understand. They'd laugh you out.
That's right.
And I understand what you're saying. My father was, I mean, he still is a churchgoer, and he used to play the organ at church since he was very young. You know, I go to church, even though I don't think one particularly needs to be part of a religion. But if humans, like little puppies, and we're not too different, if we haven't got discipline, structure, and guidance, then we're going to grow up with no discipline, structure, and guidance, and in this case, moral code. But the more we don't have a moral code, then the more you're going to get human beings being progressively liberal, and which basically is insanity. And you can eat what you want, you can look what you want, you can do what you want, you can take drugs in the middle of the street. You guys are talking about having sexual relations in the street. Then that's because there are no rules.
Right.
So as a child, you probably were like me and you didn't like rules but rules are there to protect you from yourself. So sins of the flesh, the human condition.
Well, okay. So what's the problem? You don't like her rules, or what? I don't quite understand the problem here. Then.
Well, for me, well, we are all different. I mean, as I said, I think you were chastising me for speaking about it, saying you don't know where it's going. I think Claire has a lot of good points, and I think we do agree. The fundamental problem is there's no moral system, there's no moral function.
Well,
I mean,
Claire's offering one. Claire's offering a list of actions or behaviors that would clean up a lot of the problems of society. Okay, so how's she not doing that? That's moral. Don't steal from your neighbor. Don't have kids when you're not married. You know, what else? Don't try to rip off people financially. Don't give these huge loans at the bank that people will never be able to pay off. That's some kind of fiscal responsibility, some kind of an end, since she brought up this 20% thing, an end to overtaxation that people cannot pay so that they can have some kind of future. How is this not a moral code? And in Islam, you have to be nice to everybody.
Well, does that, forgive me for saying, but from you mentioned the Sunnis and the Shiites earlier on. Can you explain? Can you qualify that?
What about it?
In Islam, you have to be nice to everybody, but when you have them,
you don't have to be sickeningly nice. You don't have to be a pushover.
So why? What goes on in Egypt? What goes on in Egypt?
Okay. Do you want to live like what's going on in Egypt?
Me, no, because that's
okay. So do you want to live like that?
Hang on.
Do you want to live like that in England? Where do you think all of this is headed towards?
No. You're trying to divert me. You said in Islam you have to be nice to each other, whereas But Muslims,
You have to respect Christians and Jews
right?
and let them have their communities. Okay,
So
what?
no. Just wait. You didn't answer my question. You've avoided me 3 times.
Mhm.
In Islam, you have to be nice to each other. So why do Muslims kill Muslims?
Because they're humans and everybody's fighting.
Right.
But the ideal
okay.
is
So Islam. So you're saying that the religion of Islam is not strong enough to overcome the human condition. So you're saying now that because humans are humans, they will bypass their religion, including Islam. So therefore, Islam ain't the answer because it doesn't work.
well, it's not this. Okay, it's not this. And so how do you teach men to become men again when they've been institutionalized to be wusses? How do you do that? How do you really do that? Because that's what I'm seeing. So how about some responsibility, and you're going to give it to them now?
Do you know? I mean, the word responsibility is quite interesting. It's one word, but it's your ability to respond, hence your responsibility. So when a man, it ain't easy being a man, in terms of finance, bringing up a family, supporting all the things that you're saying men should be. And these days in the world, it's virtually impossible due to the 50-50 split in employment. So, and there's a 50-50 chance that your girlfriend or wife will earn more than you. So the system today, it's impossible to have a man who, unless he's earning ridiculously large money, which is probably what 1% of the population or something, where the wife doesn't have to work. So we live in a world where it is not possible. I mean, you and Claire both want John Wayne. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for like some cowboy to come in.
I didn't work. Okay.
Pardon, sorry.
We made some choices. I didn't work.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good. And but we live in a society today
But
where
you don't have
men.
to buy into everything like this. You don't have to buy into materialism at this level. And Islam has cautions against that. I can't, we can't go through it. We can't, no one can expect a bunch of people to adopt every if they don't believe in the actual faith itself. But certainly the general gist of it, the overview, if you look at the things, the family stuff, that was white culture in my father's day. So it would be a simple thing for white men to do, and white nationalists. And I invite them to look at some of these rules and just think, well, you see these ladies running around saying, I'm going to be Muslim for a week wearing a scarf to see how they're impressed. Okay, I know he's saying do that. Let's spend 2 weeks, you married men, come home and don't sit in front of that TV with a beer. Those that are doing that. How about pick a couple of things and start working on that? You're going to turn yourself into a better, I don't mean you personally, I don't know you, into a better product, a better human. And this is what Islam emphasizes. And this is what the white man used to emphasize. Okay, when they weren't too busy being subjugated by aristocrats and the church supporting it.
Which Islamic country do you think gives the best example
It
of
doesn't
Islam?
matter which Islamic country gives it, because we were in the West. We would have to look at this through the lens of our culture, make it our own, and ignore all these suggestions the immigrants are giving, because they're not from our culture. They don't understand it. Okay? And we have a bunch of white people that almost don't even understand white people anymore. Okay, the nationalists need to become Muslim. The nationalists, if they became Muslim, because they're so supposedly motivated to bring the white man into power, maybe they'll actually be able to do it.
So you think
I like white culture. I like it.
Why do you like it?
I like it. It was a stable family. Was it perfect? No, everything wasn't perfect. Was there some things I liked? Yes, no, whatever. It was stable, and it was a hell of a lot stable than some of my friends' families and stuff. That was a stable family, man. We knew my dad was coming home every night for dinner. We knew he was going to be in the house.
But with respect, though, I mean, what we're talking about, 1990s or 19.
So what? We're supposed to all give up? We're supposed to all give up because a bunch of people have bought into some narrative that
No.
these
Sorry. The
uh-huh,
question. The
uh-huh,
question. You keep answering like the questions that I haven't asked.
mm-hmm.
So, what year are we talking about when you were growing up and your father? You keep saying your father kept coming home as if it's some kind of miracle, But like, what type of?
I had two
n-
friends whose parents weren't divorced.
Yeah, no. Likewise, I mean, my parents are still together.
Mm-hmm,
They're
mm-hmm,
in their 80s,
mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
yeah, and um,
Well, I'm
n-
65.
right, and
Okay.
that. So yeah,
So I'm the
yeah,
tail end of the baby boomers.
right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, 40, 50 years ago, but um, obviously a lot more families parents were married and stayed married then, even if they were unhappy. Um, but I'm not convinced that in the when I was in London, and this is one of my stories that completely counters like what Claire's on about this. I went to there was a college in Islington in Northampton Square, and it was predominantly Muslim, 90 odd percent Muslim, and they
Mm-hmm.
they were celebrating LGBT Day, Rainbow Day, or Pride Day, whatever the hell it was. So
Mm-hmm.
you've got hundreds of younger Muslims, obviously, I think it's 18 or 16 under, celebrating gay pride.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that square up? The
Well,
Islam.
it squares up that the secular Dawa is doing a better job getting their message out, and the liberals, than the conservatives. That's how it shakes
Right,
up. That's how it shakes up.
I'd agree. I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
that's a better answer than I've heard from Claire, to be honest.
I don't
But
want to listen to somebody coming in here trying to say stuff about Claire like that. You can make your point without
look,
dragging her name into it.
you can try and chaperone Claire and protect her.
I'm
You
not
know,
trying to chaperone and protect her. I don't want an unpleasant
well, you
conversation.
are. No, it's not unpleasant. No. Believe me, Claire does not need your
I'm
very,
sure
very
she
weak.
doesn't. I'm sure she
Yeah,
doesn't.
no, exactly. So it's an
But I
insult
don't like
to her.
talking
You're
to
trying to protect her.
men who are doing that because it's not Islamic. Okay? That's not proper. Is
So how would you qualify Claire's attacks on Christians? Do you think that's Islamic?
Well, I think she's looking at it as like, is the church in a position to create a situation that's going to turn this around? And I would have to say she's correct in that the church
Did you say
itself.
something? I could be wrong. Did you say something about 10 minutes ago about how Muslims are supposed to behave towards Christians and Jews?
Yeah, the government they let them have their churches and stuff. Yeah,
Right.
you can
So
have your churches. Yeah.
again, how do
Mhm.
you think about? I mean, what Claire's writing in the chat also about me as a Christian. Like,
Oh,
what do
I
you?
can't see the chat. I don't
Right,
know.
right. What?
Everybody keeps talking about this,
Let's.
but I don't see these
Okay.
chats that everyone's
Fair
saying.
enough. 'Cause most of it's nonsense anyway. What do you think about the way that Claire attacks me and my Christianity?
I don't know well enough what exactly is going on with you guys. I
We're good. We're
maybe she
friends.
thinks you're a hypocrite, and I don't know. I'm just here to talk about these ideas.
Right.
Hmm.
So you're quite happy to attack me for discussing Claire, but when I talk to you about how Claire attacks me, you,
I'm
you
not.
claim you
I
don't
don't
know.
know exactly how she's. I'm saying is her view is that Christianity is a failed force for causing any kind of social change at this point, and it has been horribly undermined in Europe. Now,
No,
what
you
I
see, yeah, she's right. As
well,
Christianity is today, it does not
hmm
function in society.
hmm
It's a busted flush,
hmm
and but in its proper form,
hmm
as I
well, I
understand
think
it.
probably it's a in its proper form. Okay, we're going to talk about that, the proper form. Look, how do you think Christians are going to turn it around then, if that's your argument?
I
How
don't
are they
think
going
they
to turn
are.
it around?
I don't.
Well,
I don't. I don't think. I don't think. I think it's endgame. I think it's.
okay, it's the end game then. Okay, I think you guys, I think the white man, white culture, white society, Europe has a chance if they adopt Islam through their own cultural lens. instead of imitating the hordes of immigrants that are coming in. I think they can make an outstanding culture again and resurrect it. Now, the problem with Christianity as a theology in this is, most Muslims, and what people are having a problem with is this idea that we're not going to do anything until the Messiah returns. Muslims are waiting for Jesus too. We just think, you have to be a little bit more active. I'm saying is we have a culture in decay. And why? Why should we let it decay?
I think a lot of English people look at how Muslims are, how they live, and
so they're not Europeans.
No.
Right?
Well,
and look at how Europeans are living. Look at how Europeans
I'm going
to
repeat what I said. You can keep interrupting me if you want. It's up to you, but I will keep
well,
on.
There might be a time delay
Right.
too on the computer. I don't know.
No.
So far.
Okay.
I don't have high-speed internet.
Okay. A lot of English people. I mean, Christine Ramsey. She's in the chat as well. We look at Muslims, we look at Islam, and it is like it's the worst. It's the pits. And why on earth would any man or woman want to choose something which appears to be a lot worse than what they have, even though if what they have may not be that good?
I'm not advocating people imitate these immigrants.
No,
their behavior doesn't fit in.
You see, a lot of I'm telling you now. I don't speak for white man. I don't speak for, I'm speaking for myself here. But a lot of English, British people, or even French or German people feel that they've lost everything, and as if to make it worse. Oh, by the way, you need to change your religion and go to Islam. I mean,
I did not say anyone has to change their religion. What I'm saying is that the simple structure of the law, if you look at Islamic law in the simple way, instead of getting into all this extremely extensive nitpicky stuff, just very, very generally in what it's encouraging, that Europeans can create a better society if they adopt those rules. And I'm saying is since the really great white people have all died off, why not go ahead and say, and say, is there something wrong with the idea that I'm not going to get inebriated with drugs? Can we just skip the drugs this week?
Were you married to a man who was an alcoholic or drug addict?
No.
Okay, because you keep saying that.
Because it's all around us now. Okay. It's just terrible. It's terrible. I don't know how many people I see, their kids are on drugs. There, heroin's all over the place. Fentanyl is all over the place here. It's just a horrible, horrible decay. But this is a simple thing. It's a simple rule, though. You know what I mean? It's okay if you tell someone stay away from drugs. Most people get that, but maybe they don't understand the idea of how about having a dad around who's there 100% of the time. 100% in his.
Carol, I say this with respect. I agree with what you're saying. I know where you're from. I hear you.
But I'm saying is don't look at. I'm saying is people don't have to look at. I'm not suggesting that every single white person become Muslim if they don't feel it, if they don't want to be. I'm not suggesting that at all. But I am saying that white nationals would make a better white man if they looked at some of these rules, because they're kind of checking out of it too. You can't sit here.
You're not talking. Okay, so hang on. So you're not talking about the religion. You're talking about the rules.
I'm talking about their conservative rules that were identical to how my father lived and thought, and I think white culture would be way better if they had people that was like my father in it. Okay, I see Islam as being.
Are you not just being a romantic just by looking back at when you were a little girl and your father would come home and you probably had a little blue dress on and a painted fence and you'd play with dollies?
That's not what my family looked like. My family wasn't me running around in a cute little dress or something and my dad being all sensitive.
Mhm.
It wasn't like that. It was
No,
stability. It was an absolute stability that is beyond what you're saying. We weren't rich people. He came home, he went to work. He came home, he went to work. Day in, day out, day in, day out, dedication over the years. Total dedication to my mother. They weren't like some wimpy people that were sitting around handing each other flowers and chocolates and being idiots. They actually lived a life where they put up with whatever was in front of them and dealt with it. That was the culture of the
so
white man.
okay, I'm confused now. I don't
Mhm.
understand whether you're saying that we should turn to Islam, or whether you're saying that we should turn to the rules that are in Islam, but in the Quran rather.
Because they're the same rules that white culture had. You know, let's see how many go.
So do you think that in America, the Constitution and the amendments, whatever, should all be changed, and everybody should live under the rules of the Quran? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not, because I'm not sure I buy into the part of her idea of a one-party system or at being an actual theocracy. I'm still thinking on that one.
Why do you not like that idea? I personally do. I think that's one of the better things she comes out with. One of the few things that is actually good.
Oh, okay, because I don't want to be under a Christian theocracy, and I don't think it would
Oh, I
possibly
see.
keep Muslim ones.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. So, but you'd
Yeah.
be under an Islamic, like Iran, for example. You'd be under that. So it's not the theocracy. It's who's
I
actually
think
in
you
charge
have to
of it.
have a. I think the way I look at things is there has to be a way to push back. There has to be a way to push back. In the United States, I'm looking at as someone living in the United States. If you've taken away the family community, the religious communities, those crazy old, they used to have those cultural clubs like the German American Club or the Scottish American. If you're taking all these things away from everybody, what's left except a political party? There's nothing left. So we need a development of different political parties because it's gone too far into the destruction. We can't make it come back with just having families, but the family is the foundation of all this stuff. The foundation is the beginning. You have two people, Adam and Eve, came together, made these kids, and this grew out, and then it became a community. Then it became a tribe, and it became these things. And then you have these different tribes, and the different tribes are disagreeing, but this tribe could exert enough power maybe over this tribe or not, but they could keep it together. Okay, what we're seeing is such a that's oppressed. It's oppressed individuality. It's not the same individuality that people used to have. That they are slaves and can't do anything because they are brain dead.
What do you
They
think?
can't
What do you think
outside.
What do you think of Claire's idea of bringing back slavery?
Oh, I don't think she wants to bring back slavery.
No, she does. She does. She wants people to be slaves again.
Well, aren't we being slaves right now? Slaves to a media and government complex.
Well, emotionally and spiritually, but I'm talking about workhouses, actual slaves.
Aren't we all stuck in a workhouse? What's the difference between, philosophically, what's the difference between being a slave 24 hours a day and being a rent-a-slave? Because we're people who work are rent-a-slaves, right? You got to go to work and do what the boss does. I
think you've got love goggles on for Claire. I really do.
I don't have love goggles on. I think people need to listen to her ideas because everybody is so stagnant in their thinking. It's going nowhere.
With respect, I've listened to Claire for over 5 years. I've met Claire over 10 times, and I actually you're telling me how I should handle Claire. And when I'm
telling the world how they should handle Claire, they need to listen to what she's saying here a little bit. I have my own ideas about things and stuff too. So everybody's also scared of Sharia law now. Oh, we're so scared. The Muslims are going to take over.
No. Let's get this. I think there's some good things in it. I think there's some. I'm not against it. I'm not Islamophobic. I'm not against it. I
didn't
pointed
say you
out.
were.
No.
That's the general media thing. We don't want it. Okay, what what if they don't, if people, what is it you want people to do? Just sit around and wait for the Messiah? Is that what you're suggesting?
I
Because you
genuinely
don't
don't.
have an alternative. If somebody needs to come here and give an alternative that sounds like any kind of an idea, besides this, and all they can do is talk about belief. She's already taken belief of God out of the equation. She says,
Well,
you
that's
don't need
because
to
she's an
believe in God.
Claire's an atheist.
So I'm saying is she took belief in God out of the equation. Her idea is we can create a good society again, just getting some of these conservative things back. Islam has a list of them. And, you have some people who actually believe in God and believe in this list. And why can't some people just follow some of the things on this list so we don't have to be sitting around trying to deal with all these problems with unmarried kids, unmarried children, parents?
What Claire's talking about is legislation. I don't know what they call it in the States, but basically the passing of certain laws.
Well, we used to have those laws here.
So Claire talks about freedom of belief. Is it 252 in the Quran or something, or chapter whatever the hell it is? I've heard it a million
I don't know if
times.
it's 256,
Right, freedom.
maybe something.
Okay,
yeah.
so
No
Christine
compulsion
Ramsey,
in religion's the one she's talking about.
Yeah, Christine Ramsey, you like this one. So Claire talks about freedom of belief, but her treatment of Christians.
What about it?
Well, it's very scathing, threatening.
Yeah,
insulting.
she's rough, she's sarcastic, she's scathing. She's not a Muslim. She doesn't believe in. I don't know if she believes in actually having Islamic adab or not. She didn't say all that. She's just saying, let's make a better society.
You're doing a really good job in explaining how Claire thinks. I mean,
I'm saying is how it appears to me when I'm looking at this. Is she so politically correct that she's so sensitive to everybody? No, but I am a Muslim. All right, I am a Muslim.
Oh, so you're an actual Muslim?
Yes, I am. I'm a Muslim.
Right. Cool.
And we don't usually get into these long drawn out conversations with men. So it gets into certain aspects. If a man starts disparaging a woman or something, I got to check out. Even if the woman's doing it, because the woman is seen as weaker, a man has to take the lead. So it's not taking the lead for a man if a woman's insulting him to fall into the same thing. Do you understand? I can talk to Claire as insulting as she wants to get. I can't talk to you.
No,
if you start getting like that. Do you understand? Because I'm
no,
a Muslim woman.
yeah, but I would never. I mean, I've got God in my life, so I wouldn't get like what Claire is. I mean, Claire's an out and out atheist, and what I don't understand, and maybe you can help me with this, is how Claire says that the problem of the world is because lack of religion, lack of moral code, and the world needs religion, especially her type of religion. But Claire herself is an atheist, so all of Claire's ideas come from Claire. They're not God-centered. They're from Claire.
Well, she's not the first person.
Whoa. You don't need to defend her yet. So
I'm not defending her.
Claire's, yes, you are. You've got love goggles on. So Claire's
you know what? I'm married. Listen to me, mister. I'm married, and I can't have a man talking to me like that. You keep your love goggle stuff to yourself, or I can't be in this conversation. I don't think you understand. Claire, you might be able to get away with talking to Claire like that, but I do live in a family. I have a husband who is not going to appreciate some man talking to me like that. You need to act like a man.
Well, then
you need to show respect towards women, even if you don't respect them.
So
even if you don't respect them.
Right. So getting back to the point, how can Claire, as an atheist, actually have any thoughts that are from God?
Claire can't have thoughts from God because she's an atheist. What are you trying to say? An atheist can't be a good person, or see that maybe something would be helpful here, even if they don't believe in the theology behind it? Is that what you're saying? Because we have a precedent in the United States of this.
To a point,
there's plenty of people who there were people who brought their children up in a Christian church that maybe didn't believe in it because they believe that children need to be taught moral values. They need to be taught moral values in a community setting. There's plenty of people that do that all the time. So she's an atheist. Okay, so what? Why can't she enter the discussion and talk about it as how she sees it?
She's frightened of me because she won't can't answer my questions.
She's answering them and you don't like the answer. I mean, there's a big difference between that. If you don't like the answer, you don't like the answer. It's not going the way you want.
No,
right?
no, I don't have a set plan for how Claire should be, but I challenge her, and I know her. I know how she operates. So that's, you know, I mean, the fact you're
look
on
at
here.
this. Look, I see all these comments over here now.
Oh, in the chat.
Claire would make a great slave. Indentured servitude for criminals. Well, isn't a man working his rear end off some kind of an indentured servant, working for a paycheck? Let's see. Well, I'll get, next time I do this, I'll have to look at this. I never saw all this stuff.
Yeah, you've got maybe whoever's listening goes in the chat and then comments.
Look at all this.
Most of it's from Claire, praising Claire, I think.
Well, what if you guys took the list of the general rules, the general gist of Islam? What if you took those rules? Like what does the law in Islam try to promote? Let's say you look at those things. And why don't you just take Islam out of the picture and Quran altogether and just adopt those rules then? You call it something else. You could call it something else. I don't care what you call it.
Well, I think that it's probably time to move on, because that's like putting a sandwich on a plate and calling it something else, calling it a motor car.
Oh, well, let's get a little Shakespeare out here. Rose by any other name? Is it still a rose or what, or however that goes? Well, what difference does it make what you want to call it, what you want to call it? We're saying the idea came from, she got the idea from the Quran somehow, and she has an interesting take on it, in the idea that people can maybe use these rules to shape up society, some because they're conservative and they're the same family values white people used to have. And we're talking about generally these areas that were predominantly white people countries. I mean, why are white people standing around waiting for the decay and letting this happen to them when their ancestors were the type that came in and just took over? It's a totally different mindset. Now, I'm not saying let's go oppress people. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying it is a different thought. It's a different idea. My dad never would stand. You know what's being proposed here is that white people, when they die, should just leave all their possessions to black people. What kind of stupidity is this?
And who's that being proposed? Is that just on social media or something? Or is that actually?
No, it was kind of that was going around for a while with
As in reparations.
No, not the reparations. This was a separate one. This was a different one. They're saying in order for us to, apologize for being white and for what our ancestors did, we should just give all of our property to them. Well, I have some kids. I'm giving my property to my kids.
What does Islam say about color, about like race? And I mean, you keep talking about white.
I'm talking about white in this sense, as white DNA and white culture. Okay, I'm talking about from that standpoint, because that's my opinion about it. There is Islam, the theology itself is colorblind. However, in the Muslim community, it's hate whitey. There's 5 pillars of Islam. The 6th pillar is hate whitey now. Okay, so I believe that white Muslims need to have their own separate societies. Not societies, separate religious institutions, so we say. A religious institution. I don't think we need to imitate immigrants coming into this culture. I think we have our own culture that should be shown through the lens of Islam, and Islam should come through us in the way that befits us. It befits our culture. And most people find this kind of a weird idea. That's how I believe it. I believe all religion is reflected through people.
Hang on. Mm-hmm. Would you describe yourself in the modern day term as a racist? Like, give me your thoughts on black people.
I have black relatives. Do you think I hate my family?
No, I don't know. I'm asking.
No,
I
I'm
don't
telling
know
you, I don't hate races. Hate is only good if it can be turned into something that motivates something good. And that, we have that saying in Islam that, a prayer, you can pray to God saying, God, please change something bad into something good, right? This kind of thing. It might be
When was the last time you were in a mosque?
A couple years ago.
Oh, right.
Mm-hmm. I don't go to the immigrant masjids anymore. I don't want to. It doesn't reflect my culture. They don't. It's not a good offering for society right now. What's going on? That is not a good offering for this country.
But
Okay,
that's the same with Christianity, though. That's the same with Christianity.
What about Christianity?
That if you were to go to a church now, probably 90% of them don't give a good representation of Christianity. It's a lot.
No, I'm not saying they necessarily give a bad representation. I'm saying that they're mostly it's mostly a situation of immigrant. Usually it takes about three generations for people when they come to a country to really become a part of that country. It's very difficult to do it in one generation. Their influx of immigrants is too high. They're bringing in too many immigrants yearly, daily, that it's affecting the culture, and these people aren't understanding this culture here. Now, what are they going to understand? That you can wear a dress. If you're a man, you can wear a dress. You got a gay pride parade. We're so open-minded. We're going to tell your 13-year-old girl where to go get birth control. This is what they're going to learn? No. White people need to step up and say, no, this is not what these people need to be learning. It's not what we should be teaching our kids, and we got to save our countries. Now, why can't they do that? That's all I'm asking them to do. I'm white. Why won't white people stand up and say, we don't accept this anymore? Because they're not being shown the way, apparently, because nobody will talk honestly about anything other than whose feelings are you hurting? Somebody doesn't like you, so what? Don't go shoot them with a gun. If these people, all these immigrants coming to into our countries like this, if they really can't stand white people that much, they need to leave. They need to leave because they're coming in to tear down and not build up. The old immigrants came here to take over and build. Okay, we tore down the Indians thing and we took over. Okay, I'm sorry. I know they're sad they lost. We won. Okay, are we going to give it back now just because of some feeling of inferiority? Because it's not sensitive to the feelings of somebody somewhere? You're really going to give it back? I don't see one person moving out of their house and giving it to American Indians. All these immigrants that are coming here talking about how bad the white man is and how they oppress the Indian. What do they think they're doing by coming here? Did they ask the American? No. They're not asking permission from American Indians to be here. If they really believed this hogwash they were saying, they wouldn't come in the first place. Okay? They're coming over here to make this country what they want it to be. I want white people to make this country what it used to be morally. Okay? And I don't see Christianity or Judaism inspiring people to make better humans anymore. It's turned so theoretical and so individualized that I don't see how that can be effective. Okay, now what Islam suggests is an alliance between Muslims, Christians, and Jews that believe in God, that kind of promote this idea and some basic idea of a cleaned up society. Right? Now, someone like Claire is suggesting, well, I don't really believe in this God stuff and everything. But if it was true, that's kind of, that'll be interesting. I can't wait to see that. But now we're going to have, but these rules, it would have been a lot better. My neighborhood would have been a lot better if people believed in these rules. My country would be a lot better if these people believed in these rules. If they believed people would just believe that maybe they should have kids after they get married, that maybe they should think of marriage as a goal instead of, oh, well, that's something I don't want to do because it doesn't sound fun. Where's the dedication? Where's the stuff that makes a human better than a rock or a I don't want to use the term animal because it sounds like I'm calling everybody an animal. I don't want to use that. But what really makes it an elevated human? It's not having kids when you're not married. It's not destroying your own personal finances. It's none of this stuff that we're all seeing going on around us. But all because nobody wants to hurt anyone's feelings, because over half the population has already bought into it. And then you have another population that's just mad at the white people because of past history. Well, okay, I don't blame them for being mad. Don't come tear up this place. I don't think they
are mad. They are mad. I think it's a form of manipulation to get hierarchy for the present
I've
day.
been in the masjid.
You've been in what?
I've been in masjids for years. They hate white people. These people hate us. If they don't totally full out blow and hate us, they think the women are the whores of Babylon. Why should white women be about a bunch of men who think they're the whores of Babylon? This has to stop. And it's not going to stop if it stays in the path it's on right now. Okay? White men need to go back to their traditional values. They need to feel better about their values, not a pep talk. All they're getting now is a little pep talk, a little weak pep talk from mommy. You'll do good better in the future. You'll do better next time. This is meaningless. It's absolutely meaningless for what we're facing. You see what I'm saying? That's my view. So,
yeah,
nobody likes...
You've explained the symptoms of
I explain the symptoms. It's a decayed society. Why is it decayed? Because it can't even keep a family together. Well, let's start keeping the family together. Okay, let's start with that.
No, but I don't think you. I mean, I'm going to have to go in a minute anyway. But it gets back to what we said at the start, that if you haven't got a functional religion that's actually working at the present time, you're going to have decay, and what you've described is the decay.
I don't care the reason. Okay, that's right. That's okay. That's the reason. So what are you disagreeing about?
Did you say you don't care? Sorry, did you say you don't care about the reason?
Look, somehow somebody has to buy into this old moral code again to make the society truly functioning. It's not functioning.
Yeah, no, we agree on that.
Okay, well, okay. So it needs rules. Islam has a group of rules like that. Islam itself isn't, the rules in Islam isn't saying, that you have to be a Muslim in the sense that I am. It's not saying that. The rules don't say that. Do you see what I'm saying? It's a list of conservative rules, and it does have a faith community that's still intact, much as a lot of white people don't want to be around it anymore. Okay, but it still is an intact community. So it too is a religion in decay. It has a lot of the symptoms other things has. It has its own attack of liberalism and secularism. But it's more intact than what I'm seeing with the Christian one. I mean, right now in Europe, the old churches are being bought up by Muslims. Don't you think that's insane?
They get burned down. But look, it's been really good. So, sorry, is it Carol, your name?
Carol, that's right, Carol.
Yeah, no, it's been good speaking to you.
Okay. Thank you for talking to me.
Yeah, and it's good that Claire's found her latest playmate, and long may it continue. Claire?
Goodbye.
Okay, we'll chat to you later. Did you enjoy listening to Carol shouting at me?
She wasn't shouting. She was being very patient with you and
Oh,
explaining her
well,
points again and again,
I've
even
been
though you were.
criticized that people can't hear me on here. I don't know. It seems like you have a faded voice or it's coming out loud.
I
I
think
don't
there's
know.
a delay, a slight delay of a second. So I thought you were
Mhm.
interrupting. Maybe you weren't. So I do apologise if that was the case. But no, Claire, I'm glad you found somebody to back you up, and I look forward to you two going on to
Yes, isn't
you
Carol
know.
wonderful?
No, she's good. She's good. I mean, I'll be honest with you. She's better than most that you attract, and as I say, yeah, long may it continue. She made some good points. I think she's like all of us. You're very good at describing the symptoms of having no function in religion, but I still haven't heard any good ways to get your ideas implemented and actual practical steps. I mean, you
Well,
know,
All
that's
we do is just keep asking, like, have you got a better idea, Whinger? Anybody who complains, that's the solution
mm,
we present, and they go, "Ah," and they run out of the room, and we're saying, well, have you got anything better?
well, it's a
And
discussion, right? This is a discussion on this idea. I mean, everything starts as an idea. I don't think anyone. The big fear seems to be Sharia law, but I don't think Sharia law is scary at all if it comes through the white
well,
culture.
with respect, as a Muslim, you wouldn't.
Well, I don't know why. I would say a lot of Muslims don't want to live under Sharia law. Yeah, that's pretty obvious. Why are they living over here then?
But it's interesting though. But on my final note, I will, if I go out tonight, I'll
Hmm.
say to my friends, they'll say, "What were you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I was listening to two women tell me how I should live and how I should
They
be."
would, if people really wanted to live under some kind of Sharia law, all these Muslims that came here, they couldn't find a Muslim country to go to. Every single one of them just couldn't find one to let them in, right? I know a lot of Syrians went to Turkey.
Oh, it's
I mean,
ridiculous. They go through 15 countries and come to England, and
well,
yeah,
okay, they
I
come
know.
to England and then want to tear it apart. I mean, let's be honest here. There's a lot of stuff going on here that nobody wants to talk about because either they want to be politically correct or they don't want to be honest when looking at the situation. They're coming here and they're tearing the place up. They're being horrible to the women. Women don't want to be around men who are bothering them in the street. We don't like it. Okay, they're getting so used to it now. They think it's normal, and it's not just Muslims that do this. Other people are doing it, right?
So
We
you're
don't
not
live like
exactly,
that.
yeah.
We want to live like how they used to live a little bit farther back. Like when I was a kid, that was better. Men didn't
No,
think
I mean
they
I
could just
agree.
talk to some
I
woman
I
in the street. Okay, so
I
how are you going to
agree.
get anyone to understand this when they've never seen it and they don't know what it looks like? That's the problem. Maybe I know what it looks like. Maybe Claire does. Maybe you do. But
Yeah.
these younger people have no idea what that looks like. They have no idea. If all the kids in school, I mean, even in the old days, if you had parents that were divorced and things like this, at least the other kids in school were parents were married. I'll give you one example before I leave because I have to go too. Um, there's a kid, this kid, she's illegitimate. Okay, she went to elementary school, and there's these two other kids, each other, and one of them called the other little girl a bastard. All right,
hmm hmm
you're a bastard. So the other one turns around and says, "So are you." And then the third one goes home and tells their mom about it because the mom told me this story. Right, that's back before I even had
Yeah.
kids. This is what's
Yeah.
going on. It's so prevalent now that nobody thinks there's anything wrong with it because they don't even know what they're missing. They don't know it because everyone's being a baby and acting like a little kid, the adults all around them, because they don't know
No,
what
I
an
know.
adult
Carol, we live in the same world. We live
yeah.
in the same world. We just probably differ on avenues to go down. That's all.
Yeah,
I
well, I
mean,
don't think you can. I don't think we can wait anymore with this idea that we're going to change, somehow convince everyone that God really does exist. and that we're all going to just be inspired by this, and all of a sudden going to be nicer people. We're living around people who aren't acting right. They're not acting right. They're not acting like humans. Their behavior is not at the level of what you would think a human should be acting like. You see what I'm saying? So I'm saying, okay, skip the idea that you have to believe in God. How about just look at the rules a little bit and think, if you implemented some of these into your life, would your life end up being better? And practice it for a week or a month. Just practice. I'm not saying go pretend like you're a Muslim and go do prayer and dress up in our little costumes and all that stuff. But what if you did just decide, okay, I'm a Christian, but I'm going to put these little rules in my life too. Some of these ideas. I'm just going to take some of these ideas and think, yeah, maybe I'll suffer today doing something I don't want to do because it would be better for my kids.
Well, that's the thing with the current liberal climate. Then suffering is not part of life. One shouldn't suffer. That's what.
Well, I'm saying, so what? I'm saying.
No, I agree. I agree.
Suffer.
I mean, that's what I was saying before, as in know them by the fruits. You first of all
have to know them by the fruits. You don't have to know anything. You can just look at the rules a little bit. Look at it in your life. Look at not you. I'm not talking about you personally. Someone can look in their life. Let's say they came from a broken home. They look at those rules. Yeah. People really should stay married. It would have been better for me if they stay married. Now, then the counter, I think that is, yeah, my parents stayed married, but man, they were arguing all the time, and it was kind of a little bit of a hell living there, right? Oh yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be married because it was like that. Well, if everybody else was married, then you would understand. Oh, my family was kind of like that.
If everything, Carol, if everything was working in the 1960s and 70s, why did it go to hell? Why did it stop working?
They joined the hippie revolution. It was the hippie things. It went too far. You have push and pull of ideas, and it went too far. What went too far was the idea of breaking down the community, and destroying religion breaks down community. It's two faceted problem there, right? So I don't know how you can get people to go back to faith communities if they don't believe in God. I don't know why anybody would.
You cannot go backwards. It's not in the human condition.
I'm not saying it. I'm not telling anyone to go backwards. I'm not telling anyone to go backwards. I'm telling people move forward. Move forward and don't give up. Move forward, don't give up.
You've got to move forwards and make sure that you yourself are demonstrating what you preach.
You don't have to be perfect in demonstrating this. No one has to be perfect.
You do. You really do. You need to be pretty solid.
No, you don't. Yeah. No, you don't. That's some kind of an absolute idea, and that means what? No, that we're just going to give up now before we even start.
No, I'm not going to go into it.
You need a school system that's telling the kids,
okay,
you need to get married.
Okay.
Not that daddy wears a dress too. This is really a circus in the United States. I don't know what's going on in England, but this is an incredible circus now.
It's nowhere near. If you live on social media, it's in the schools every day, and if you open your door, you'll see all these boys dressing as girls. But in reality, it's very, 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 very. It's there, but it's hardly happening.
Oh well, it's happened here. I mean, it's happened here. It's a happening thing here, but the whole thing isn't just that if the man wears a dress. It's it's gaslighting everybody. But what's wrong with the idea? Did you have what rule in Islam is that you actually don't like? You sound like a conservative Christian, right? Are you Christian or whatever? Okay.
I guess
what rule in Islam is that you don't like?
I don't fundamentally like. It's abhorrent to me to change religion. I wouldn't want to change to be a Hindu.
Well, that's not the question, though, Jay.
But it's no. So I'm answering the question the way I want to answer it. Mm-hmm. So my thing is fundamentally, I'm very happy and content with what I do, and I think if a lot of people followed that, then things would be a lot better. But to change religion, no, I don't want to. I don't need to.
I don't think
You know,
I don't see how that enters into this, because who asked you to change your religion? The idea doesn't involve changing a religion.
well, I think a lot of the one in the Quran, I think, where it says about Muslims not befriending Christians and Jews in case you think you're one of them. I mean, from what I understand of that definition, is pretty straightforward, and you know, so. But you
Well,
apparently said
I
they
already
didn't say that.
explained about friends. It's talking about if you're going to imitate other people, you're going to end up just like them. For example, that imam that marched down to the border with a bunch of pagans and lesbians and stuff at the border, and they all did some little pagan ritual, which I don't think he even realized that's what was going on. All looking at the border together as an encouragement to all these people coming illegally into the United States. I mean, that was a ridiculous scene, right? So we don't want to become like them. These Muslims that are going down in the social justice warrior stuff, they're sellouts, because they're selling out their religion because they think that's the price to pay to be in the political process. They're doing the wrong thing. Why are they doing the wrong thing? They never asked the white people what to do. They never asked white conservatives what to do. What should we do in this country with all this stuff going on? So now they're becoming just like them. They're the group that's gone into that doesn't resemble Islam anymore. That's not the stable family we were brought up in. That's not even the idea that I mean, I don't know what that is, but it's not encouraging those basic Islamic principles. It's not encouraging basic Christian ideas of just having a nice family, or the Jewish ideas. It's not encouraging any of that. It's becoming just like the non-Muslims. Okay, so if I'm a Muslim, should I go become a Christian? Should I go? You can be friends with it. You can be friend with anyone. You can even talk to a homo neighbor. So, I mean, there's no problem with that. If you want to talk to them, but you're not going to be. You don't become them in some sort of a sellout version. Now, that's the advice to Muslims. Okay, but that's not what the idea here is. The idea is here's a list of some conservative values, and maybe we could build a better society if we go on these conservative values. And it's hard to figure out what they are when you're looking at Christianity, because you have one bunch saying, it's hard to figure out what they are. I mean, are they saying they should be like Messianic Jews? We're going to believe in Jesus and be a Messianic Jew and do all those rules. Well, Islamic rules are way less than that. Way less rules than that. Because you can also treat Islamic rules vaguely as in what they're trying to accomplish. And do the rules of society match that? If we pass a rule saying it's okay for teachers to show up in class in a dress when they're a man, is that promoting the family? No. Look at what you're promoting. It's not all about being so nice to everybody that no one's feelings get hurt. It's not all about that. It's about what you promote in society. So Muslims, for the most part, they still have an idea that what you promote, that society and individuals have certain rights. We still believe that. So anyway, that's my view on it, I guess.
No, it's been good to listen to you, as I say, and it's been.
But the most people here are not white. In the United States, I think white people are not half the population anymore. I don't think. Now maybe there are some white states or something, but I don't think white people are the majority anymore in the United States. There's something in the chat. Somebody said something like that.
Well, skin color ain't going to get you out of it.
Well, I think white nationals, if they became Muslim, it could do real help. That would be great, because they got the idea of liking their culture. At least they like it. And I like white culture, and white culture is what made a fabulous Europe and a fabulous United States, and it was white culture that did that.
You're unhappy. I mean, you're unhappy in the world today, aren't you, Carol? You don't like it.
I'm not unhappy. I'm old.
Good.
I'm just
Good.
getting ready to check. I'm getting ready to leave this world. I'm
Okay.
not particularly unhappy. No.
Good.
No.
Good.
No, I'm really not. I'm old. I mean, I'm not gonna waste a whole lot of time being unhappy. It doesn't matter. I'm not trying to raise a family either anymore. I'm past all that. I wish younger people had better advice. I wish younger people saw the better advice manifested in the population that was around them more, instead of less and less and less. That's what I wish. And I would like white people to change it around, because I think white people and white culture had a lot to offer the world, and I think it can again. They get off this self-pity thing that they're stuck on.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, let's continue this another time. I've got some thoughts which will open up more discussion. And if I can just say as well that I've had 1,000 million arguments with Claire over the years, so we're on a level of bashing each other. It's not, as I said, it's not as bad as what it may come across or sound.
I don't care. It doesn't matter if it's as bad as it doesn't sound across. I'm trying to encourage you to be a better man right here, Jay. Why don't you pick up this attitude too, that even if a woman's being a jerk to you, that you can be man enough not to be one back. Now, I'm not saying you're being a jerk. I'm just saying that's a man. My dad.
No, but when I mean, it's not the first time it's happened that somebody is surprised at the level of
I'm not surprised. I don't want to be around
if you just can listen, that it's not the first time it's happened that people may be surprised. And Claire has that with other people as well, that you may look a lot worse than me, that will that'll come on and they'll argue and hurl and stuff. But it's okay. It's all in debate. It's not.
It's not okay
nasty.
To me though, Jay. It's not okay to me. I'm stepping out of what's actually pretty much normal for a Muslim woman to sit here and talk this casually on the internet with people.
Right. Well, let me just say that on this stream and these types of streams, you get some. I mean, I'm one of the dare I say it, the nicer guys. There's some absolute animals on here.
Wow, Jay, that's terrible. You know what? I bet you could even be a better example to them than you are now.
Well, I am in certain ways. I mean,
good.
But I'm saying for your own, just be aware.
That's what I want to see. I want to see white men thinking about their behavior and making it better.
Have you chatted to Conops? Have you talked to him?
Who?
Conops.
I know most people. I don't know any of these people.
Yeah, he's great. He's really good. He's another one who Claire calls an atheist Neanderthal or whatever the hell she does. But he's really good. But just be careful with the rest of them. They might you might find it a bit rough going.
Well, if they get too rude, I'm not going to talk to them again.
Yeah. I mean, anyway, I'm heading off, but Claire, we'll catch up later, and Carol, be good listening to you. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
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 Well,
Claire, I am in the patriarchy, over here, and I think a certain somebody wants his lunch made.
Yes, I understand. Thank you for coming, and thank you for dealing with Jay.
I like talking to people, but now I see all these chats.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, that didn't show up before. Oh, it shows up on the computer, not the phone. I guess is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Well, I don't know. I hope that didn't bore everybody. It seemed
no. I think we were sort of on tenterhooks, hanging on your every word to see how you were going to deal with Jay, and you dealt with him so skillfully and were so patient with him, and I think people will have fun.
Well, I'm just talking about how I see it. Everyone else doesn't have to see it the same way I do.
But you stuck to your point, and you know, Jay was trying all his, you know, all his little ways to try and. But anyway, I think you fielded it very well. All his questions.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, so I'll speak to you again soon. Before
Yes.
too long.
Yes. All right. Sound like home.
Okay. Bye bye.